Go again.
Welcome to Plat Chat, episode 95, presented by T-Mobile. You might have the impression that we're going to be a bit delirious in this intro, but that's because we already did the intro and then had to restart the recording. So don't worry about it. It'll have all of your classic banter that you've come to love at the beginning of these intros.
We'll just do it again.
We've already bantered. Are we
Bring up the
banter
Love
again?
Island guy.
Yeah.
Matt, bring up the Love Island guy. Let's talk about this guy real quick. Bring up the Love Island guy again.
All right. So before we get into anything, Avast is on Love Island. I'm convinced.
On Love Island,
So this guy's name is allegedly Jeremy, but I believe his name is Avast. He is just a jacked version of Avast. Like it's Avast with a spray tan and just longer hair. I mean, that's pretty much it, right?
Well, it's not just that. This guy's got such a thick neck. I mean, he makes you look like a pencil. He's got his jawline is so girthy, and yet his neck extends almost the full way out.
His neck is wider than your body. Yeah, I mean, look at you. You're like that is Chad Avast. You're at home in a sloth shirt. Front of a green
What's
screen,
wrong
just
with a
out.
sloth, man? Sloths are Chad.
This guy is unreal.
I don't get what's wrong with those. Sloths are Chad as fuck.
Yeah, this is Avast.
Wait
We're gonna
a second.
follow Avast's journey.
Matt,
on
I want to
Love
dig into
Island.
that a bit more. I can't think of an animal that's less Chad-like than a sloth.
Sloths are so cool. They're perfectly adapted to their environment. They grow algae on top of them because they move so slow. Think about this. Think about this. Think what's more badass than this. Sometimes they just plummet to their death because they think their arm is a tree limb, and they just plummet to their death. What's cooler than that, huh? What's funnier than that?
Living.
They can starve to death
on a full stomach.
Wait, how does this work? What do you mean they can starve to death on a full stomach?
Essentially, they're just a giant thing of Greek yogurt. So they have a bunch of cultures inside of them, and like if they get too cold, the cultures all die and they starve because they can't digest.
But how is that
What do
not
you mean they're
just
just
freezing to
like
death? That's
They're
It's
like a
not
Greek
because their body is still alive, but the microbiome shit dies, and then they can't digest stuff. Yeah,
I mean,
so they're just a big Greek yogurt.
That is you. You are the virgin sloth.
There would be no
Avast.
avocados without sloths.
There'd be no avocado. I also really love avocados. I didn't even know that fact. That's a new fact I just learned.
That's not even a true fact because that's talking about giant ground sloths from fucking eons ago. We're not talking about.
Yeah, but they disperse the avocado fruit though by eating and pooping it out.
Yeah, but these
dinosaurs,
sloths,
yeah,
the
the
sloths you're talking about.
Is just generations of sloth poop.
Yeah, but sloths are 3 times stronger than us. How is that not Chad? They're 3 times stronger than us.
Can you imagine if sloths of that size shat out an avocado pip? It would rupture.
Well, that's
them.
why there's so many avocados, because they pooped out so much.
Oh my word!
Well, this is a good intro. Good intro so far.
we'll follow Chad Avast's journey on Love Island.
Yeah,
They could cure cancer.
They could cure cancer. There's nothing more Chad than curing
Who wrote
cancer,
this
too.
article?
You guys are so fucking wrong.
They're being paid by the sloth lobbying corporations. What is that?
Yep, that's what it is.
What, like little scientist sloths about to cure cancer over in wherever they live. That's
You're
nonsense.
just pissed that they could finish medical school. You're just pissed. They could go finish it.
Hey, Josh could have finished it. He just decided to fail it instead.
Yeah. That was a good idea, wasn't it? Because now I end up on a podcast with you lot. God, I wish I was helping the poor and the needy. And instead, I'm doing this. Absolute nonsense. What a waste of
You
my
are helping
life.
the poor and needy. Look at us.
Oh.
Look at us.
All right.
After meeting you, those people would have ran look for somebody else.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I had a brilliant segue for the T-Mobile story, and I cannot remember for the life of me what it was now. But
You're talking about connecting people.
No,
Like
that's
the guy connected with the
Much
Love
like
Island
giant
people.
sloths connected the world with avocados, T-Mobile connects us with our loved ones. There we go. I
That'll
have
do.
the ad read. Josh, take over from there.
That'll do. Fantastic. I have no idea what my segue was previously, but it didn't count anyway. Let me pull this thing up. You know T-Mobile. You love T-Mobile. We're sponsored by T-Mobile, and now I'm going to read you about T-Mobile. They're the one to trust. They want to be the best in the world at connecting people to their world. With so much of our lives these days happening through a wireless connection, nothing but the best will do. We rely on wireless to do almost everything in life, from big
Literally
deals
everything.
to everyday connections. So if you can't rely on your network, it can have big consequences. That's why you can't just trust this stuff to anyone. T-Mobile is the largest and fastest 5G network in America. God bless America. With coverage and speed like this, why wouldn't you go with the best around? There you go.
Love T-Mobile.
I love T-Mobile.
Incredible.
Yep. Okay. Our first topic here today is the Ana Summer Showdown skin from the Hero Eris.
Yeah. What
Matt,
do you think
know
about
what Hero
this,
Eris
Johnny?
is?
Yeah, it was an Egyptian bird god.
Johnny, what does this eye look like to you? Explain to the viewers again, so they didn't get to hear the first thing.
In the lost recording, I mentioned how upon observing this Egyptian god Ana skin, the armor is pristine.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's lovely. It's shiny. It's polished by the finest of Egyptian foot soldiers. But the eye thing is so out of touch. Like, it doesn't fit in with the rest of the skin.
What do you mean?
It doesn't fit in. Everything is so super cool about this, except for the eye thingy, the feathers, the eye patch. Yeah, because it looks like a well-greased grill grate that you just overused for a summer. Yeah, you've grilled burgers, ribeyes. You haven't dusted off all the chemicals, the ash, all of that bullshit, and they've just took that and just attached it to that beautiful helmet of theirs. Okay, that's my take. That's the take.
Okay,
love the skin, but the grill grate eye, I can get rid of.
It's not a grill grate. That's just ridiculous. Makes no sense. It's just supposed to stand out because it's her replacement for an eye patch. By the way, how does she get value out of the bayonet?
She stabs them,
but the scope is so much longer than the bayonet.
She slices them.
Yeah, you'd have to slice.
Maybe she slices. When I ever build a wooden patio, I'm gonna bring Johnny over so he can look at that wooden patio in very dad fashion. He's just gonna he's gonna be sitting there looking at that wood patio, just admiring it. Because like grill grates, wooden patios, lawnmowers, shit like that.
Charcoal.
Charcoal.
You are an old man. You are an old man in a young man's body.
I love old man life. It's incredible.
Yeah, he just throws on a button down and thinks he's smart. That's all he does.
But you'd have to slice. I don't understand. Anyway, look, she's got like those little black feathers underneath her armpit as well. There's
the feathers are cool.
Oh, it all makes sense.
Look at that.
I like the talons.
You're telling me that doesn't look good?
I think her skin's cool.
Those are kind of cool. Those are kind of cool. Yeah,
they are incredibly.
It's a solid skin.
I
it's
think
like 8 out of 10, almost 9.
I think
Johnny would be like, oh yeah, they should just release a Reinhardt skin every single event.
No, I'm telling you, I like the skin. We like the skin.
Face to a grill.
Just the one part.
Do you prefer this one or the Widowmaker or the May one that came before?
I didn't like the Widowmaker one either, so I go with this
particularly.
I like the Widowmaker one.
I think this is the best one they've released.
I agree.
This one's really good.
I agree. Okay,
really great.
Moving on to the Overwatch League, as it happens. I want to give a caveat here as well, that I didn't watch all of the games from the knockout games because I was sourced watching England lose to Italy yesterday. It did not come home.
For a second, I thought you were going to say you were sore watching the game. I was like, were you actually like reenacting the plays in the living room like while you were doing it? Like what?
Yeah, every time there's a set piece, I jump up and I try and headbutt the ceiling as well.
Yeah, for those corner kicks, they missed a few of those.
No one misses a corner kick. I mean, how could you miss a corner kick? The ball is stationary.
Well, when you're setting up the corners to try and get the cross with the headshots,
The headshots, I can't. I absolutely cannot.
All right, this was lost in the recording as well. But yesterday, when we were doing the Overwatch League, Matt came into the Overwatch League voice chat and asked if the Euros finals ended in a draw. So the people need to know, Matt. I've already said it once.
Sometimes boxing ends in a draw. Sometimes UFC ends in a draw.
Yeah.
Imagine that if they had judges by the sideline of Euros and was like, yeah, this team played better. We're going to hand them the trophy.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
I mean, Italy
still
would
would
have
be
won.
no corruption with that system and soccer.
I mean, there's corruption at every
known
possible
for their
level.
very
boxing known for their legitimate judging.
Yeah, absolutely no problems there with judges. Utterly impartial at every turn. But what I did see earlier in the week was the Houston Outlaws firmly and quite soundly shitting the bed. And what I want to pose the question here is, I had just come around to believing in the Houston Outlaws. I thought, okay, this team is looking really strong. They should be able to dismantle the Boston Uprising fairly easily. I even thought they had chances in the battle for Texas. I said that my gut was telling me to predict Houston. Thankfully, my brain overruled it. But Is this what we've been talking about the entire year, where the strength of schedule is going to make the second half a lot different to the first half for the Outlaws? Or was this just a bit of a random blip in the road?
Well, they played Boston. That wasn't really, they lost to Boston, which I don't think we would say was like a strength of schedule issue, right? No one was expecting Houston to lose to Boston. I think strength of schedule played a portion of it, though. But I feel like here, and once again, this was lost the episode, so I don't have to bring it up, but I'll just say it anyways. It's like, yeah, I misread what Houston exactly was going to do playing on the stage. But still, at the end of the day, their anti-dive and like double shield had looked pretty good. I mean, Piggy, like, I think he's still like statistically the best Sigma, right?
Yeah. I think so.
So overall, like, their comp looked good, but it's very clear that like when they were confronted with a style that they hadn't played a lot at all, and they need to make comp swaps, they just weren't able to recognize this swap fast enough. They just weren't able to figure out like what exactly they needed to play to adjust. And I don't think that's going to really matter. Like, I feel like that is going to very much matter as we head forward and we look at like the other top tier teams and their ability to adjust and like change their comps. Houston, it might be stuck in like being a bit inflexible.
I still feel pretty good about the Outlaws, with only like 4 games to go. I think you look at their record, and obviously, like they were 9-1. Like, I don't really view them as like a dominant 9-1 team. Like, I think they've had just some really good performances against top teams that have ended up going their way.
Yeah.
I still think it's a very good team though in NA. I think this one definitely hurts though. This was like one of their better, if not best chance, I think, to go to Hawaii. Like, I feel like with the way look, and I think they just kind of blew it. I think maybe
missed
a little
out on it
bit
every time now. I mean, that's part of the reason that they don't look like a dominant team, even when they were 9-1, is because they just missed out on Hawaii every time. But those times it was because they ran into the Dallas Fuel. This time you can't even blame Dallas, even though Dallas hands them one of their losses. It's the loss to Boston that stops them from being in the knockouts.
Yeah. I think they probably overlooked Boston.
Well, part of that, yeah, but also as we saw, we learned from the knockout matches and how important like losers picking that is. Like the matches against the Boston Uprising were Ilios, Temple of Anubis, and then Eichenwalde, which generally favors like the slower compositions. But those are some couple of good maps for Boston Uprising to get going with a dive composition that we haven't really seen in North America, that I could totally see Houston Outlaws being, caught off guard with to begin with, because Boston previously had primarily played a lot of Reinhardt compositions against like Florida and stuff in week 1. So I think there was a bit of a surprise factor, but then I think the maps also played a part in Boston getting a 2-0 lead here. So I think it's understandable to a degree. I mean, I don't really think we overrated Houston Outlaws that much, because after that win against the San Francisco Shock and in the fashion as well, I think the hype was justified. I think it was just like a one-off upset, really. And I don't think we should dismiss the Houston Outlaws too much. I said in the lost recording that I don't trust the Houston Outlaws anymore. So I don't have full faith in this roster. And to talk about their upcoming games as well, I mean, this was their best chance. You're stealing
Matt's job.
I'm doing Matt's job because
I don't know what to do now.
It's this important, okay?
Okay.
Their next 4 matches in the Countdown Cup, they started off against the Washington Justice. Then they play the Atlanta Reign. And then they get a bit of a comfortable, match against the Florida Mayhem. Then they end with the 4th match against the LA Gladiators. So they got Washington, Gladiators, Atlanta in 3 out of 4 matches.
The thing is, though,
2-2 set though. I don't think that's that hard.
I mean, that final stage is going to define the season for the Outlaws, because they're playing against their contemporaries. They're playing against the people that are competing with them for those spots of like anywhere from, I guess you could say, anywhere from 2nd to 5th, really. Though they could end up landing based on how they perform against other teams in the 2nd to 5th area. It's really the best. It will give you a very accurate read of where they genuinely are, because they're going to have to beat teams that they would land above. It's not like they can just, get above the rest of the teams by having better win rates against other people.
Well, it's also going to be hero pools again, right?
Hero pools, yeah.
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 I mean, God
so
knows,
really, that does alter the arithmetic a bit, I think.
Well,
because
but in a way that you can't predict, right? We have no idea what. Those
in a way that like you can't predict. But since, like you said, Josh, I mean, if they're a good team, they're going to have to more than likely perform well against the other people. They can have similar spots, like competing for the same spots. So it doesn't matter the hero pools.
Yeah.
They should qualify for play-ins, though. Sorry.
Jonathan, when you were saying that you feel like this game, not this game that we're watching on screen right now, the Dallas-Houston game, but the other one, the Boston match, was a bit of a one-off. I would be inclined to agree, except that they got manhandled in that Dallas game as well, because I really did think that they had a chance of being able to win that battle for Texas, judging by their form in the prior week. And then they got boomed, really. I mean, they drew on, what was the map? Hanamura, I think it was, where they drew.
And they should have won that.
And then they got, I mean, they had opportunities to win there, and they couldn't. And then they got kind of dominated on the other maps, too. I was disappointed by the Houston Outlaws this week. I think that they looked stronger coming into this week than how they actually ended up performing. And that would be a terrible way for the season to end after how excellently their season has gone up until now.
Yeah, do they have the most pressure on them going into the final stage, like tournament?
No, I'd say a lot of teams actually have a lot of pressure on them because, it's so hard to get into the knockouts. Like, I think Washington still has pressure on them. They still haven't really done anything except for the last 48 hours or so. Los Angeles Gladiators have a ton of pressure on them after not qualifying for the stage playoffs. And
but all of these teams are going to get into the playoffs anyway, right? Like almost certainly.
All of them will go to the play-ins for sure. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, the play-ins. Sorry, I should put it like that.
I think Philly has pressure on themselves. Not so much Chengdu and Hangzhou maybe, but I think there's a lot of teams that because of the season format, next stage really has to pop off or prove that they can make it to the stage playoffs. Actually, I think Houston Outlaws, if anyone, has actually been a positive surprise. And I know that they have high expectations because of who they are as a franchise, but you can't complain about this given the preseason expectations. Really, I think.
Wait. People have high expectations of Houston because of the franchise of Houston Outlaws. When has that ever been? Has that ever been the case?
I think it's just the popularity of the franchise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the popularity and it's
sure, yeah.
Not because of how they played, no.
I think Atlanta and Gladiators had more hype going into the season, and they were like, these are the teams that are going to win.
Definitely, yeah. So I do think it is a positive. I mean, even if the Outlaws did go 1-3 in their next stage, and what would that put them at? 10-6? That's better than most people thought they were going to do. Across the entire thing,
for sure.
So it's still been a good season for them, even if they completely bombed it from here on out. It's not bad. I think that you can't be too reactionary and call it like a turning point for the Houston Outlaws because, I mean, literally, even if the rest of their season goes poorly, they're still going to have opportunities to revive themselves at the play-ins. It does just seem it was just a little bit unfortunate that old Houston Outlaws narratives reared their heads of like, okay, we're doing well in scrims, but then you go into the match and you can't adapt quickly enough. That's certainly what it felt like in the Boston game. Anyway.
Especially because they've actually sort of solved their support line issue a bit. Like, it seems like they feel confident enough running Juby on Brigida full time, know? And Juby, I think he didn't play like amazingly, but he played fine. Like, I think, and there's room for him to grow if they just keep giving him play time. So I think that there is some more hope for the Outlaws now that they've decided not to have a coaches meeting and the coach to put himself in and for us to just commit to let's fucking play Juby and just develop him.
They were super confident when we spoke to them too. Like they felt really good about this week coming up.
Yeah, I think it was unexpected for them. I mean, it was a rare bad week for Dante, too. Like, the guy pretty hard underperformed compared to where you would expect him to be at. He got echo diffed by Valentine a bunch of times. He looked slow to be able to react when he was trying to play the May or the other picks that he was trying to choose into the dive, into the sim kind of stuff as well. He kind of dropped the ball a couple of times against Dallas. So it's one of those rare weeks where you get an underperformance from one of your main players. And it does hurt. For the Dallas Fuel, though, they were playing in front of a crowd. And we've had a bunch of these situations this week. Not even this week, but over the last couple. We've had a bunch of homestands. Shanghai had one as well. Dallas had one. These crowds, it almost feels like I'm not watching live. I don't know about you guys, but it makes me think that I'm watching a VOD or something. I haven't really wrapped my head around it.
I was at the Dallas homestand. It was pretty nuts, actually. When Fuel fans, they needed this. They needed to watch Fuel just pound Houston into the dirt live. They were actually going crazy. So it was. I was actually really pissed. I actually took time off my stream to go drive up to watch that match because I was like, God damn it! I just like showed up and then I watched music get rolled, and I was like, well, fuck.
How many people were there? You didn't get
like
a very
1,000-ish.
Right.
I think they sold 1,000 tickets.
Okay.
I want to say.
Sick.
Yeah.
Around there, obviously, give or take, like some of those tickets might have been reserved for stuff, but like there was definitely several. It was a filled arena, and it was like several hundred people, for sure, and it was like packed to the gills. So I think I know it was like 1,000 tickets were the total amount that initially were on sale, and I don't know how many of those. Like technically, I got one, and I wasn't there the whole time. But I was there for that Houston Fuel match.
Sure.
So I think it was overall a really cool event, and the events as well in China were really sick. They also had some great fan posters, really good fan posters in China. But overall, I think it was a super, super cool event. It was nice to see Homestands back.
There's definitely been some hiccups with the production of them, both from like the people in the venue and then the way that the Overwatch League has ingested them, like audio being fucked up a little bit. The camera work is really dodgy for the Dallas one. That poster making it on the main broadcast, obviously a fuck up from the camera people.
You guys want to see it right now?
No, we don't want to see the poster.
No, we're good.
It's yeah.
Why not?
So it was yeah, but overall, I mean, I think that's just people getting back used to having live events after a year and a half off. It feels like just working out the kinks.
Working out the kinks, all right. They're definitely doing that.
Yeah. So, but overall, it's only a positive thing. But the question here, Jonathan, that you wanted to add a little bit of spice to is, how many is the right amount? Right? If we were having homestands on a more regular basis with some level of like, even if they were remote or if stuff was going on all the time, we can't have them whenever we want right now because there's still COVID, people adjusting across the world. But in an ideal scenario, what would you go for?
Yeah, I mean, okay, if I could just cherry pick, I am the commissioner of the Overwatch.
You're the commissioner now.
In our current format as well. So let's start off by saying I don't think having homestands every week for the Overwatch League would be reliable and stable. I don't think the teams want that. You gotta travel everywhere, almost like no time for practice. We heard of this like at the start of 2020, before COVID happened. Like the Houston Outlaws, didn't they like travel like a shit ton of days? And they were like, we can't practice the game, and we're just
got ill as well.
in and out of airports. It's a mess. But like these homestands are nice. Of course, it's what we all want. We love the live experience. But if we could have homestands like every week 2 of a stage, perhaps, and maybe like every knockouts or stage playoffs. No, not knockouts, but like stage playoffs as well. Like a homestand every stage playoffs, and then a homestand every week 2 in the qualification thingy. Just like travel around, fill the calendar a little bit for respective region. That is, of course, I think that could be super cool. You don't want to oversaturate because then you want it to feel like an epic experience where like you get the fans to come back. This is like a rare event, especially we travel around, go to your hometown, etc. But you don't want it to be as rare as well. You want to make sure that it's consistent. It's a big part of the league. So I don't know what's going to happen, but definitely want to see more. Of course, I think we all want to see more homestands for now.
I think rarity plays a part in it as well. Like the fact that people haven't been able to go to one in so long is definitely, I think, increase the appetite for people to go.
I mean, also, there were no Chinese homestands. So Chinese fans have never had an opportunity to go to an event and actually watch their teams play Overwatch League matches. So I think that even if you did run them all the time in China, people would be turning up because the fan base there is enormous. Can we just scroll back a little bit to that big wide shot? How many people would you guess were there? Were there any official numbers about the Shanghai homestand and how many people actually turned up?
I have no idea.
It looked to me to be like,
it looked a lot more than the Dallas homestand, though. So
it does, doesn't it? I reckon there's at least 1,200, maybe 1,500 people there because the wind's all up at the back. There's tons.
It's packed to the rafters, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's only going to be a semicircle, but
crazy amount. So I mean, overall, I think homestands. And now that we've had a year to sort of like COVID kind of beat down the unrealistic expectations going into 2020 with homestands, I think everyone can sort of take a step back and realize like, holy shit, we're about to do that. Like that's kind of silly. Like let's maybe like scale back and like create something that's a little bit more sustainable and I feel like every stage playoff, and then like obviously like like something maybe even like a Homestead series leading up to finals or something would be cool, like for playoffs. But every stage playoffs for sure should have a homestand in my personal opinion. And also, if we're gonna do it only for like once a stage, they should expand the amount of peoples that get into like. They should maybe include knockouts and have it like just one giant event. But I don't know.
Yeah,
it just
like
depends on how
teams,
teams want to do.
you know?
Yeah, it would be cool if like they just made it to one big tournament, knockouts plus stage playoffs.
Yeah,
usually.
There's a lot of issues with running things online as well with like the European teams, honestly. So there's still a lot of challenges, I think, for the league to figure out moving forward.
I mean, if Paris was going to make it to knockout, like there, I mean, I don't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, I think they can. I think that there's a lot of leagues have. It was the thing that John was talking about on Reddit.
Yeah, John
before,
talked about it. It was like an exemption.
Yeah, it's like the
athletes.
An exemption.
Well,
that's
for getting them
sports players.
I think that was just for getting people visas if their companies are based in the U.S.
No, I think you're allowed to travel on those exemptions.
Okay,
yeah. It's like you're allowed to travel despite the COVID restrictions. You're allowed to you have to quarantine or something. But you are actually allowed to get in. Okay. I want to talk about the Washington Justice and the Dallas Fuel. They had a ridiculous match, right, to be able to qualify. It was a lot of fun. I want to talk about a little bit of like the lead up towards it and then the match itself to qualify teams too. Because like I said, I didn't watch all of the games from yesterday because I was sourced out of my mind watching England-Italy. I mean, I went to bed at 6 p.m. because I started the day at 10 a.m. with a bottle of champagne. So that was a terrible decision to do that. But feel fine now because I went to bed too early. But I didn't see the parts leading up to this. What I did see was this match. I went and watched this VOD because it looked sick, but I didn't see the feeder games into it. So set the scene. When you're coming in, the Justice and the Fuel, what they accomplished up until this point.
Well, I mean, the Fuel have accomplished everything they did throughout the stage, right? Throughout the tournament. The Justice, they got a win against Paris. It was a game 5, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a nasty game too. It was a crazy good game as well.
I do feel like the Justice still came into this though with a lot to prove, where they are able to get by a team like Paris, but can they have a performance like that against a team like the Dallas Fuel? Which I think a lot of us had super high expectations for the Justice coming into the season. So like it's not crazy to say like they should have those type of performances. And this was the first time I think the Justice really looked like an elite team that they can have those type of games. Really map dependent series. The series went back and forth like kind of crazily, where obviously the Justice don't come out on top at the end, where I think you can see, especially on Mag's face, like how much it kind of hurt, because they felt like they were right there, like right on the doorstep of it, and they all played quite good. The Justice, it just got outplayed at the final moments.
I mean, the opening map, Mag was putting on a masterclass. He actually
on the
went fucking ape mode. He it was kind of crazy. The guy has so much freedom, despite the fact that they're a very reactive team. What I've been noticing more and more watching Mag is he goes for some crazy shit. Like especially on the Rhine, he goes for quite unorthodox pins. He goes for big shatter plays all the time. Like he's quite an aggressive Reinhardt, despite the fact that his team is a fairly, reserved, reactive team. It's not, I don't mean he overextends, but like in the middle of team fights, he'll try and do some crazy MTD shit. It really paid off here.
I actually think Fearless as well underperformed here. I don't want to discredit Mag. I mean, it was, as you said, like a masterclass of Ryan, besides from a couple of engages from Washington that I really disagreed with. But like Fearless was opening his team up for shatters so often. Like he would just like not protect his team at all. When Mag would just like walk in and land like a 4-man shatter. It happened repeatedly on Control Center especially. So I think Fearless, and Mag got into Fearless head, quite honestly. And from there on out, it was just like MTD. Even on King's Row, I think it was MTD on King's Row too. And it was actually a miracle that Dallas Fuel held on to that point B on King's Row. Like that was insane. There were like a couple of fights they really should have lost, and then with the help of like Sparkle, Symmetra, they turned it around. Hanbin on Diva as well. It was an incredibly entertaining series. I had no idea that Washington were gonna play the Reinhardt composition this close with Dallas Fuel, because I honestly thought that all of their strength primarily came from the dive compositions when they played Assassin Sombra, like they did against the Gladiators the day before, and actually beat the Gladiators in that 5-map series. And I think that was I think that was a bit of a turning of the page, that series specifically, because you saw what Washington Justice were capable of when they played the right stuff and when they are really comfortable, because we hadn't really seen that in the Summer Showdown qualifiers before that. So I think it was actually a ton of confidence gained from that match that they then took into the actual knockout matches here against the Fuel and the Paris Eternal. You beat Paris Eternal, you're feeling good, you're vibing, everything's clicking. So, and especially it was a bit of a comeback against Paris as well, because they were down 2-1. So you complete that comeback and then you go into this series, confidence is running high, you're feeling good about yourself. I think the Washington Justice grew a lot as a team this weekend, and this match was so back and forth. I honestly, okay, the hot take that I'm not 100% subscribing to could have been that Washington Justice actually were the better team overall, but Dallas Fuel came in clutch. I think had Nepal been closer, that could have been an actual take, considering how dominant Washington were on Route 66. But Dallas Fuel, I mean, they're still like the most clutch team in the league. They are the best team in North America, and I think they proved it.
I can understand where you're coming from, but I don't really buy the take that the Washington were the better team. I think Dallas just suck right now at most of the escort maps. I think it's a big weakness in their map pool, and it's also an area I think that's going to get exploited pretty hard in the Summer Showdown. All of the escort maps just don't really favor the kind of style that they like to play, and it just looked like they didn't have the best idea of how to execute properly against the ball and the tracer.
The ball Zen comps with the Brig really they had no answer for it.
Yeah, I mean that is a fat shatter from Mag. That essentially wins the game for the Washington Justice, doesn't it? Oh no, they win. No, it was the second round.
No, this is the round.
It was on
Control
Center, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's other shatters he does. I mean, Fearless just had a rough Rhine game on Lijiang. He had a rough Rhine game overall. So Mag looked really good though. Mag looked probably the best he'd ever looked on Reinhardt in that series. Like 100%. I agree with the escort take as well for Fuel, because they can play the TP strat, but they don't like doing it the way that like Rain can do it, where they can even pull out like Orisa. Like Rain can pull out Orisa at times. Fuel never want to play Orisa, ever. They literally never want to play Orisa, and so it hurts them on like escort maps where there's like more distance to cover, and you're trying to get your Rhine in position, and you're just getting rolled by all sorts of like spam and like by the slams and the nades. So they don't have as much flexibility with like bridging that gap on escort as Rain does when they can put Gator on the Orisa. So I do actually think the map pool is going to be an issue for them. And Shanghai is going to be a really scary team for Dallas to play against. Like a very, very scary team. Especially now that we've sort of seen proof of concept of the comp in North America now too. With teams playing this comp. Absolutely, I mean, Paris played it expertly versus Justice. I mean, honestly, I would not argue Justice was the better team this year because I think Paris should have won their match versus Justice.
Oh, really?
I think Paris should have actually... Oh, yeah, 100%. I think Paris should have won that match. I think they made a crucial mistake subbing in Suna, not because Suna was played badly. It was nothing to do about it. Was literally just because of the fact that Suna this, and it's a problem teams have, but subbing in players for a map 5 that have not played all series. And you made this take. You made this exact point on. I think both you, Matt, and Johnny both made this point on broadcast of like subbing in a player for a map 5 on a role like Tracer when Onigod has been popping the fuck off is a poor decision.
It's unfair to the player as well. Like, how is he like Decay has been playing the entire series. Decay already, like even without an advantage, is like one of the best tracers like in the league. And then you give the all right, Suna, go out there and match it like fuck off.
Like, and also limited their flexibility.
You know what this is reminding me of too? This is the exact same conversation that all of the molding England fans are having about Gareth Southgate's decision to put on Saka to take the final penalty, because the guy had basically not touched the ball the entire match, and then he comes on at the end to take the most important final kick against Italy. I'm just getting echoes constantly of that same topic.
Like he's not in the flow of the match. It's also like just we're bringing you in game 5, like you're gonna try and match Decay on a roll. Like there's so much pressure, and then like how was he supposed to warm up to play against a roster who they haven't made a sub all game? Those players are locked in. They are ready to go in that match. Like it's such a it's a decision you can make when you haven't like been a player and been in the game and been in matches like this. But like as a player, it's like a terrible spot to be in.
Yeah,
it reduced their flexibility too. They couldn't play Sim.
Absolutely.
They couldn't play Sim with Suna,
which is so unlike Paris because they would have been the team to actually play Ryan on Mecha Base. But yeah, I mean,
so do you?
I actually would have much preferred I actually much would have preferred Paris Eternal to play versus Fuel. I think Paris the stage was sick. Okay, I think the flexibility they showed was just nasty.
If instead of it being Justice v Fuel, if instead it had been Paris v Fuel, do any of you think it would have gone the other way and Paris would have been able to take the win?
You think Paris would have beaten Dallas?
I think they could have, considering how considering how Fuel played. I think Paris could have beaten them. Yeah,
Why
because they showed mastery on different comps. They were able to play the Rush. They're able to play the ball strat with the Xin that Shanghai's been playing. They just have a great grasp of both of the two dominant meta compositions. And they're also able to play Orisa on like escort maps if they wanted to bust that out too. I think Paris's flexibility to this stage and like how well their DPS line performed, like it looked great. The only thing I could say that where Paris would probably potentially lose in that series is I think Khan is a double-edged sword for Paris right now. I think Khan, his mechanics are fucking crazy. I think he has dumb brain though. I don't think he's a very smart player when I watch him play. Like every time he's just out of position, like often, very often he's out of position, like doing some crazy shit. And like they've even talked about like Avala herself has even talked about how like they've struggled to like bring Khan in to be a more communicative player because he's like a very mechanics focused player.
Sure.
And so I think that's like the one weakness. And like if there's one team that could exploit a backline that's non-synergistic, it's Fuel, because they would just fucking pound Khan into the dirt if they found him out of position like all the time. So I think that's like the one big weakness for Paris if they would played Fuel was their positioning with their backline.
So does anyone else subscribe to the belief that Paris Eternal had a better chance to beat Dallas than Washington?
I don't
think there's any way.
Just me. But I think so.
Do you have a point behind that, Jonathan, or are you just exclaiming?
No, I think Washington Justice is like, obviously they've had their struggles. And actually, this matchup between Dallas and Washington was way more Reinhardt than I anticipated. I thought Justice would rely so much more on the Wrecking Ball, knowing that Dallas lost to Shanghai against the Wrecking Ball. But instead, Washington was... No, actually, it was... Yeah, Dallas, like the King's Row, right? They forced the Reinhardt composition.
No, it was Washington that picked King's Row, right? Because Dallas Fuel won on
after
Volskaya.
the assault map.
Yeah. So Dallas got to pick Volskaya. They're 10-0 on it all season. It's just a guaranteed win. And then Washington Justice went to King's Row. That confused me a little bit as well, because I don't think that... I think picking King's Row into Dallas is a bit of a throw, honestly, because when you have access to be able to play them on, like... potentially Eichenwald is your best bet. So I don't.
Eichenwald. I mean, even Hollywood. They like Washington didn't look good playing the Ryan comp against Paris. They didn't cap point A. They should have capped point A, but then Assassin fed on May. I thought Washington would lean more on the Wrecking Ball comps, knowing Dallas struggles against that. But instead, they opted into the Reinhardt comps, and we saw what happened on Nepal. Like, we talked a lot about Mag, but Fearless came in clutch as hell on this Nepal and just like dominated the Reinhardt duel. Mag got ahead of himself, and you can see Mag's emotions here as well. Like he was distraught. They played 15 maps in, was it like 2 days or whatever? 3 days? No, 2 days, I think. So they were tired as hell. But I think Washington could have played the series differently, and I think they could have relied more on their strengths versus Dallas. But I think I don't know.
I mean, Dallas do look mortal though. That's what I'm taking away from a lot of this too, is that even though they like crush the Houston Outlaws, I think this looks to be it's so silly because they went 4-0 in the regular season portion of the Summer Showdown, and yet I feel less confident about them than I did in the May Melee or the June Joust. In those, when they got to the knockouts, I was like, well, fuck, they're just winning. I mean, they didn't actually end up winning the June Joust, but it felt like it right from the off. This time around, I don't feel the same. I feel like, okay, Fuel are a good team, but they don't look unbeatable right now. Is that other people's opinion as well? It looks like they're mortal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the least confident going into the tournaments that they've been in this far that you would feel about them. I think that's definitely fair to say.
All right. Well,
which is odd because they went 4-0 this
one,
right?
Yeah, they went 4-0. Yeah, it's like the best stage, but I feel the least confident, which is very strange, but it's just how close they've been taken against other teams, and how good some other teams look. Now, if we're saying Justice had a chance to win this game, if they'd played it slightly differently, and Avast believes Paris could have won that game, what do you think about Atlanta, who made it to the June Joust and have now made it back-to-back into the Summer Showdown as well? On their side of the bracket, they had... I think they had another 5-map series, didn't they? Again, I didn't watch this game. But
this was one of the weirdest series I've ever casted. Every game pretty much went to a scenario where the other team didn't win a point. It was like full hold after full hold. It was really
that happened with Justice too, though. The Justice Paris match was the fastest map 5 series ever.
Really?
In the Overwatch League.
Very map
and this one beat it.
Dependent. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, and then this one beat it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
It's a really odd series. I know Johnny tweeted about it. Like, I didn't really love the Gladiators playing like the Pharah on the second point at the end, especially when they were rolling with the sim comp. But I think that's just kind of it's kind of really down to like what you personally think on the matter. But
it is what it is, you know.
Yeah,
it's one of those things.
It was this is one I actually expected Atlanta to have a little bit of an easier time, where I thought this was a big game for the Justice to really kind of cement themselves. I thought it was the same for the Gladiators. I just didn't really think the Gladiators are going to be able to do it, but they take them to 5. And this is one where I feel like the Gladiators probably look back on, they feel like they could have won this series.
They should have won this.
With some other changes. It's just another thing in the season for them where they had such high expectations but have not been able to beat them just yet.
Okay. Well, Jonathan, you say they should have won. Why do you think that? Why do you think the Gladiators should have won the series?
I mean, it's you know, it came down. If you play this match 100 times, who knows? You know, probably Atlanta comes out on top most of the time. But Gladiators definitely had the edge in the final round on Nepal, and then Atlanta did like a really bad engage. We might show it later. They did like a really bad engage, and somehow, some ungodly reason, Masa and Edison on Doomfist just came up clutch. Like they won a fight they shouldn't have. They should have been able to close this out, but Atlanta Rangers came out clutch. So that's why I'm saying that, because like they definitely had the opening, and then Masa gets like a double boop and a perfect sound barrier, and Edison clutches on Doomfist like 3 people. It was unreal. But Gladiators definitely had an opportunity to win this series. Absolutely. Yeah. It was a weird match. It came down mostly to the compositions, as you said. Like Gladiators picking Temple of Anubis and Gladiators and full holding Atlanta. Like it is what it is. I don't know what to think of it. Is this what the playoffs are gonna look like too? You know, just like dive teams picking dive maps and slower teams picking slower maps, and then you just win those. Like,
I mean, I think that's a good place for the game to be in. That's how I've always envisioned the game being. Like in its best state, in its most balanced state, it would be maps that end up deciding things, which is why we had this conversation at the end of the May Melee where we were saying you should be able to pick maps in the Overwatch League regular season so that it doesn't fuck you up in these kind of scenarios where you just have 3 dive maps or 3 brawl maps or whatever. But the Gladiators ended up winning on Anubis and Gibraltar, right, where they're able to take advantage of their dive style. Is there a thought now that teams that play the rush are favored just because they're more likely to win the control maps at the beginning and the end? Is that a conclusion that you feel is reasonable to come to after watching this game and then the 5-map series with Justice and Fuel as well?
I mean, Justice played Rush. So Justice were playing Rush, like Paris could play Rush. I mean, Rain, like obviously, Rain. I think Rain is like the most obvious. The Rain Gladiators matches like are the very obvious examples because like they rolled over teams that Like Rain was able to like clutch out with the rush comps on control, but honestly, I don't even think they clutched it out versus being favored though. Like Gladiators played it really well to where I think like Johnny said they could have won that match. Like if it wasn't for Edison and Masa pulling out like ridiculously like the most insane clutches, like Edison literally killed Moth. He killed Moth when he was 99% beat, went back to spawn and spawn camped him so he couldn't get beat. And so they couldn't like come back into that fight. So it was just like really well played from Masa and Edison, but Gladiators could have won that match. I don't think there's really any paradigm currently to say that rush teams are favored. I think if anything, it's just the most flexible teams are currently favored. And that's why it's interesting to where Shanghai is going to be, because they've been mostly playing this ball comp, which we've seen work and be good, but we've also seen teams that if they play really good if they play really well in the rush, or if they just play dive, they're actually able to get a ton of value versus it because they can just isolate the back line and kill them very consistently. So I don't think there actually is any current statement that thing. Like in my personal opinion, I don't think there is the only 100 definitive downside is if you can only play dive, you're not favored for the most part. Like it's good that if you can play at least have rush in your arsenal.
Would you define Atlanta as being a very flexible team? They make it to the Summer Showdown. I think
currently they're flexible enough. I think currently they're the one, because the thing is they had showed mastery on the TP for me. I actually think their Gladiators match, I was surprised they did so poorly on Anubis in particular, because in the past they've shown they just kept on going to the left side, and when you have a TP, you don't have to go that way. You can go right, you can go take high ground, you can TP directly to the point. There's a lot of options for mobility, which Rain have traditionally shown, like, oh yeah, we can be super flexible. Like we can just TP wherever we want and just take fights and like find a backline, find a pick. And that match versus Glads, they kind of just forgot they could TP other directions. So that's why I was kind of surprised on that match to me. But overall, as long as they remember that they can TP from multiple angles, I think Rain is fine.
Okay. I actually think that these kind of wrecking ball and dive compositions are going to be favored in the Summer Showdown playoffs. I think they're personally, I think there's a higher ceiling than there is with the Reinhardt and slower compositions. You can definitely win, like Atlanta proved here. I'm not discrediting them. But I think when I look at the other teams that made it, Shanghai Dragons, Dallas Fuel, even Chengdu Hunters, I think they're going to have an advantage over Rain in how they're able to play these Sombra compositions, Tracer, Wrecking Ball, that kind of stuff, and flex around that to try to find a proactive initiative advantage over the Atlanta Rain. Yes, you can TP everywhere, but I think these matches are going to be tough for Atlanta based on what we've seen from them compositionally.
Okay, all right. The Atlanta Rain got in my bad books earlier on this week.
Why?
Some of it because they previewed the Euro final before it even bloody well happened. The enormous disrespect upon the London Spitfire, my home team, and Massa just dunking on them by saying it's not coming home. Now, it didn't come home. He was right. But, I mean, they kicked London in the teeth while they were down. And Gator called it as well. He had the interview afterwards where he was saying to Danny that he was the person that was calling the disrespect at the end of the game. I'm sure we'll get up a clip. It was at the end of King's Row when they just refused to capture the objective.
That's an Atlanta classic, though.
Yeah,
I'll find the clip real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I thought this was the funniest and simultaneously most disrespectful stuff we've seen in the Overwatch League. I thought it was genuinely very funny.
Yeah, I think the only thing you could probably have okay, just take the point and BM, but then, I thought it was actually pretty funny the way that they're going up against London. It kind of has some relevance. It's not like they're BMing the players on London. It's like a soccer thing, right?
Well, apparently Gator just did it
by not capping the point.
Gator just did it apparently because
London also
London spawn
they have the
capped.
ability to come play defense, right? I mean, come on now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. It was funny as hell. I mean, it was just, the thing is, I think there's no stakes involved if they just cap the point and then BM. The stakes are because they're sitting off the point, right? Like, they're just leaving it up to fate, and something could happen. We're just saying, come take it from us, but you can't. Like, I personally thought this was hilarious. I thought this was hilarious.
It was so good.
I get that there is I understand where people come from. It's like, well, this team's really bad, so you shouldn't punch down on them. But I'm like, I mean, at the end of the day, do they get paid? Did the BM stop them from getting paid? No. Then I think they should all live. I think everyone here should walk away from the scenario, be fine. They're still getting their paychecks. Like, it's funny. It's just
I would like the Atlanta Reign to do it in more high stakes matches as well. That's my only thing too.
Yeah.
I appreciate this. When me and Bren were watching it, we were dying laughing. But I also want to see it like when the Atlanta Reign are playing against Chengdu.
But they definitely would.
Like
if they were like rolling Chengdu, if they like roll Chengdu, they're 100% BM Chengdu. Like, I know there's one thing, like, people were like, oh, they should do against better teams. If there's one team I think would, it's Reign.
Yeah.
I think they do it. Yeah. I think if other teams were BMing, you could make the argument that they're just punching down because it's easy for them. But I know Reign would 100%, like, if they're up like 2-0 on Dallas, they're about to fucking drop the bags. Like, it's about to happen. Like 100%. Like, there's just, like, this team is not afraid to BM, and it's like silly to think that like they're just doing it to punch down. Like, they're just doing it because they're a bunch of shitlords, and that's what they love to do.
And it was like the perfect example, you know, like Euro is very topical right now. You're playing against London. It's not coming home. Like, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's a great BM.
Absolute bants. No Italian players though on Atlanta, which is the only other thing that would have made it perfect. If all right, I've got some questions for you here. Got a segment that we've stolen straight from Watchpoint, but I think it's pretty valid. The Justice and the Reign are looking pretty good right now, right? The Washington Justice, they just miss out on being able to make it to the qualifiers. And the Atlanta Reign themselves, they're looking strong. They've made their back-to-back wins, but they're below them when it comes to the overall standings. The Justice are still, I think, one step above them. I can't exactly remember. I think the Justice are in 4th. The Reign are in 5th, something around that kind of level in North America. Which one do you feel more confident about moving towards the end of the season, or maybe even towards like the entirety of the season, playoffs? If we're trying to define the top teams in North America right now and try and break them apart from the rest of the pack, does Atlanta Reign making it to their second Hawaii trip in a row push them into being ahead of the Justice? Or does the better regular season record of the Justice reflect more of what we could expect for them getting towards the end of the season? Who's buying? Who's selling? What's happening here?
My gut tells me to trust and buy Atlanta because we've seen, them make these 2 like end of season tournaments, but we've also seen in the past where you have insane talent and you turn it on for 4 or 5 weeks, you can win the entire thing. Where I still view the in a game-to-game matchup, I think the Justice are a way scarier team. They have more players who can just take over and just dominate a game. And I think you look at it from that perspective where, yeah, they haven't made these end-of-season tournaments, but like, if you ask some teams, like, who would they want to play out of the 2, like, you definitely, I think, staring across like Assassin, Decay, Mag, and Fury's probably a bit scarier. So I'm actually going to buy the Justice. I don't feel great about it, but I think towards the end of the year, some of these players start to play well, which we've seen as of late. I think they can make a scary deep run.
Okay, all right. Paris isn't available here, Avast, so I'm afraid you're not going to be able to buy Paris stonks. But, well, how do you feel about Justice and Reign? They're both doing well recently, which I think makes this quite interesting to see.
I buy Reign.
Which one you'd favor?
I buy Reign 10 times out of 10, I think. I buy Reign.
10 times out of 10?
Yeah, 10 times out of 10, I'm buying Reign right now. I just don't... I think I was worried about them, but now that Edison and Pelican always had his groove. But now that Edison's in his fucking groove... Now that Edison is looking monstrous right now too. And I think the current meta with the way that the hero, because pretty much unless the bans work out a very particular way, I just simply don't see a meta moving forward now that teams have sort of discovered the light with how they want to play. I don't just see a meta and where Reign's going to be bad, because it would require so many heroes to be banned at once, in the next hero pools. I just don't see it, because it would require them to lose they'd have to lose Ryan and Orisa for their tank line,
and they can't lose.
Which I don't think. Which they can't. And they can't lose Ryan, and so they would have to lose they would have to lose
Echo,
Ana. I think Iris is perfect. I think Iris is very strong on all the heroes. I think they're fine. I think they're Maybe if they were to lose like Lucio, it could be a problem. But I think Mosa's had a pretty good Brigida as well when he's been playing. So realistically, I just don't see it. I don't currently see a meta where I feel like Reign's going to be. I think they've figured out all their issues. I think they've kind of figured out their rotations. They figured out their problems. I don't see a meta that they're going to be bad in. And Justice, I think they've improved a lot on their rush, like significantly, to where now it's like, if you would ask me like a week ago, I'd have been like, I would buy a Reign.
Oh yeah.
Even more.
For sure.
But
more.
Even more than possible out of 100%. But
okay,
Justice, I think, figured out their issues a bit, but I still think they have some problems. And they've, in fact, introduced more problems where they're now also doing like this thing that Gladiators do with Skewed, where they're bringing in Tuba to play Brigida. And I don't think Tuba's bad either.
Yeah.
I don't think Tuba's bad either. I think Tuba actually played well. The issue I have with that is that it once again puts you in a situation where if you don't think that this comp is like the absolute best for you, like Gladiators do when they have Skewed in playing Brigida, then it hurts. And I don't think there's many situations currently where Justice feel comfortable enough on a wide variety comps to where they can lock themselves into a player that can only play Brigida, unlike Gladiators. So I still think that Justice to me are a little bit too inflexible comparatively to the Reign in terms of like what the meta is likely to be.
Yeah. I think Atlanta Reign is definitely the more complete team in that regard. Like, they're a solid bet because of how stable they are as a team. Like, they can play these slower compositions. They can now also play Winston if they want to and look kind of decent. Pelican can play whatever he wants. Edison, my microphone's about to fall off. Well, you hate to see that. But I'm with Matt a little bit that I think Washington Justice, they have so much upside potential. Like, I still think of them as a championship caliber team that is underperforming, has underperformed for large parts of the season.
Really? That
gel,
smells to me
didn't really
like
have
copium.
Teamwork, synergy. Yes, I am absolutely, full disclaimer, 100% on the Washington Justice copium. Absolutely. But I still think if you look at these individual players, they should be better than they went this season. Absolutely, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think there's some serious issues there in terms of like their team synergy and stuff, but also the Reign on an individual basis are pretty cracked. I mean, I don't necessarily think that Decay and Assassin is scarier than Pelican Kai or Pelican Edison. I think Decay has not really been like that synced up to the rest of his team. He just has those flashes of insanity. But I mean, he's been dying first a huge amount. He's also been playing a lot of the time heroes where he can't have that much of a gigantic impact. I don't know. I haven't really seen it this season. I don't feel like this coming into this year, people were saying that it was going to be a Decay's season, right? Like you've got him surrounded by a team that should be performing pretty well. He's in a position where he's the star of a team. It's not like he has to carry a bad Dallas Fuel anymore. He's actually in position to potentially win stuff.
They also fucked around and lost 2 games by playing Jerry, right?
They've done a lot of dumb shit, quite honestly, the Washington Justice, that I have not agreed with. As someone who was one of the Washington Justice proponents going into the season, I was the guy who said Magork of the Year. I was the guy who said Decay MVP because I felt that about the team. They've done a lot of dumb and weird shit that is just frustrating to watch. I still have respect for the players because of maps like Route 66, because of series like against the LA Gladiators, because they're good performances and people are actually stepping up and performing at the level I expected them to anyway. If people feel differently, sure. Like, I get that I'm definitely I'm not a Justice fan. I'm not, but I'm like a believer in the Justice individual players.
Right.
And I still
You're a Justice apologist.
Respect for them. Apologist, sure. Yeah, I'm an apologist. So, like, if you told me... So, here's the thing. Washington Justice, to me, right now, in the state they are right now, they remind me of the Seoul Dynasty last year. Remember how Seoul Dynasty...
Don't say that. I'll jump off this train.
they were... Seoul Dynasty, they were like
struggling. To the finals, Matt. You would win this
season.
bet. You would get an insane profit if they did manage to do that.
The only thing Seoul did last year was like they went to like that the May Melee finals, right? Yeah. And then they got reverse swept by the Shanghai Dragons. And then they like started losing a shit ton in like Summer Showdown, Countdown Cup. Like they just started losing matches, and they had like a 12-12 record or something in the middle of or to end maybe even the 2020 season. But then they made a grand finals like out of nowhere because the meta suited Gestures Roadhog out of all things. To me, that reminds me of the Washington Justice. Like if you told me from someone from the future were like, hey, Washington Justice and Dallas, or no, Washington Dallas and Shanghai, either of the two, like are in the grand finals of the 2021 season, I could see it. I could see it, like Washington Justice finding something in playoffs. The developers like, hey, we're going to buff Tracer so she does double damage. Like something that forces Washington onto the right heroes that they cannot fuck up. They like that their coaching staff has no choice. They're like they're just bound on this train track of a meta and they cannot steer away from it. I could see the Washington Justice making the grand finals, but I think Atlanta Reign is the more solid, well-rounded team and have definitely proven that they consistently is a team to watch out for. So they're probably more the overall better bet for end of season playoffs.
Okay. I will not bow to teams like the Justice. I will not allow it. Much like I will not bow to Seoul Dynasty or the Chengdu Hunters anymore. And they're just the fact that they'll just randomly get a good meta and they'll be the best team in the league. I won't do it. I won't do it because it's just poor fundamental analysis. I hate it. I hate those teams. I won't have it. I won't have it.
There's something emotionally enticing about being in an abusive relationship with a sports team. That just like I was so emotionally invested in the Washington Justice this weekend.
But in the right way.
Justice do treat me so very bad.
And then because they've taken me down to the lows of like subbing in Jerry on Gibraltar versus the Gladiators, then to the highs of just demolishing the Dallas Fuel on Route 66. Oh my God. Like it's a roller coaster of
they just need to get out of their own way. They're just making it too hard. Leave the K in.
Okay.
Leave like just fucking play the game.
All right. Same question.
Before we end this,
go on.
I'm just saying to the listeners, like the YouTube listeners, I sympathize with you. I know what it's like, Philly supporters, or I know what it's like, Seoul Dynasty, Houston Outlaws, Dallas Fuel, who were there when they suffered. Like, I get it now. I get it, YouTube comments. I understand what it's like.
You only needed 2 seasons of Seoul to understand.
Do you think the Washington Justice fans would be more disappointed by the 2 seasons when they absolutely sucked, or this season where everyone told them that they should be winning shit and they haven't?
You should be upset over the previous 2 seasons.
I don't think so.
But you just resign yourself in those.
Yeah, there were no expectations. You knew you were going to suck.
You'd rather have this team than Stratus playing May for you.
Oh yeah, of course I would. But, but that's not my question. That's not my question. My question is, you can only be disappointed if you have high expectations. You can't be disappointed if someone gives you a plate of shit and you ordered a plate of shit. You can't be disappointed because it's a plate of shit.
Order a plate of shit when Washington were like, "Hey, we're starting an Overwatch League team." Yeah, that was not like, "Oh, that true. Like we're starting a plate of shit Overwatch League team." That was not the disclaimer.
Yeah, but as soon as you see the shit and you know you've got 2 years of just being served shit, the next few times you get shit,
we'll break it down. We'll break it down. Season 1, no one knew. Here, Matt, you go first, and I'm gonna rant.
You knew the team wasn't gonna be good. It feels worse to have the expectations or to get close and then just fumble it.
They haven't fumbled it yet. That's the other thing, right? It's not disappointing. Right. It's not criminally disappointing. The Justice have been all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worse. I mean, they haven't had like a mayhem kind of implosion of like, hey,
the mayhem's definitely
here's a glimpse
worse.
of the playoffs and then just fall off a cliff. But it still hurts. This was a year they were supposed to be like elite.
Okay,
I mean, if you thought they were going to be elite. I didn't think they were going to be elite. So, I mean, I never had that same expectation. But then also on top of that, everyone that says it hurts more that their team that should be good is losing as opposed to a team that's literally so bad that Sideshow used the term entertainment thieves is lying to themselves. Lying to themselves. Straight up. It's literally a meme. Like, it's actually a straight up meme where human beings want to be like, no, this one hurts more because they're not performing to my expectations, as opposed to a team that's so bad that that I simply didn't want to ever watch them.
You do hit a point though where you're so bad it becomes so fun to watch. Like I think
they never did. No, that's the thing. They never ever did because they didn't do dumb shit. They just stood there on the point waiting to die. It was painful. No, you know what? Avast, you have completely reminded me of how awful watching those previous games were. They were dreadful. Man. They were absolutely dreadful.
So so bad.
Okay.
At season 1, though, there wasn't expectations, though. So I think there's like some way you like, because it was a brand new team, or not season 2, I should say, when they first formed. Like, no one knew yet. So okay.
Okay, I want to ask you the same question, the buy or sell, but instead of giving you 2 teams that have been performing well recently and they're on an uptick, I want to pose you 2 teams that are good, but they've been on a little bit of a disappointment or an underwhelming run in the last, week or so. So the Houston Outlaws and the Los Angeles Gladiators. Now, coming into the season, very different expectations, if we want to talk about that for a bit. No one really expected the Outlaws to be 9-1, 7-1 at the half, etc. But this week, the Outlaws go 2-2, and the Gladiators just miss out on being able to get through that next stage and qualify. So, in their own different ways, being slightly disappointing. Though you could say the Gladiators had a better run of it because they almost qualified, but they're still behind the Outlaws when it comes to the season standings too. And because they haven't made it to the Summer Showdown, they don't even have opportunities to get those extra league points. So, these are some pretty comparable franchises right now, honestly. So who are you looking at towards the end of the season as being better, the Los Angeles Gladiators or the Houston Outlaws? Matt, who are you going for? Buy or sell?
Give me the Outlaws. I think the Outlaws, they've performed really well throughout the season this far. I like the coaching staff. Piggy's looked incredible on the off tank. I think Dante, he had a rough 2 games this week, but I expect him to turn it around. And I think the Gladiators, we just haven't, where the Outlaws have kind of had those, highs. We haven't seen that really from the Gladiators. They've always been on, a rocky ground where I think at this point it's so late in the season to see them kind of ascend. So I'd stay on the course with Houston.
I thought you were going to
go first.
I thought you were going to treat us to their upcoming strength of schedule as well.
No,
yeah.
I'm not.
I can do it if you want. You want me to take that
Johnny
job
will do
once
it.
more?
Yeah.
The Gladiators in
Do
the Countdown
something.
Cup. The Atlanta Reign. Washington Justice. Florida Mayhem. Houston Outlaws. So a pretty comparable schedule.
Final game of the season for both teams against each other is that. That is really
That could
interesting.
end up just deciding a 3rd or 4th spot in NA with looking at the standings that you just had
Honestly,
up.
they have a really comparable schedule to Houston as well.
They do.
Very similar.
Yeah. Do you want me to go first, Avast here? I'll keep it a bit brief because I over Washington.
Sure, go right ahead.
I think I'm actually going to go with the Houston Outlaws here as well. Ooh. I like the Gladiators too. I like their dive comps. I like their aggressive playstyle, their initiation and whatnot. But I think the Houston Outlaws, they also have a well-rounded team, as Matt pointed out, the coaching staff. It
doesn't seem they have to rotate the supports anymore.
Yeah, they've sorted out their main support situation. It feels like this is a team that is slowly but surely developing to a really good franchise. And especially if the hero pool is going to make sure they can play Orisa or Ryan, I think they'll cater to their strengths. The big question is going to be how prevalent Wrecking Ball dive will be, I think, in the Countdown Cup, where I think the Gladiators could actually make that work quite good, with Birdring, Kevster, Mirror, Muse playing the Wrecking Ball. Not sure about the Outlaws, but I feel like Outlaws overall, they're a solid bet. They're the solid team.
Okay.
I feel like the Gladiators, they're too fluctuating.
All right, 2 cheeky little buys for the Outlaws. What are you thinking, Chad Avast?
I think Glads. I think I just don't. I don't know. I mean, something about Houston. It's just getting me, and I don't know what it is. It's like they had a moment of brilliance, and then I feel like
it's a long moment.
Lost it. It was a long moment. To be fair, a huge part of their schedule was beating up on rough teams.
Okay.
So
I have breaking news.
Oh God.
Yeah.
The Titans have reintroduced the triple treat box by Pizza Hut Canada.
What? Shut up. Shut the fuck up. What are you talking about?
Medium pizzas.
Okay.
8 boneless bites desserts, breadsticks, and 2 dips.
We're not even getting paid for this. We're not getting paid for this plug.
That's unreal value.
We're not getting paid for this plug at all.
Do they have to win something in order to get it? Because they're not selling a single
lowered
one.
the bar to you
I'm
don't have to
siding
It's
with
literally just
Avast
a
on
straight.
this, man.
It's just an advertisement. It's just an advertisement.
Yeah,
That's all
it
it is. It's a straight ad.
We've just
Pizza Hut.
We've been
Hit
baited.
us up, Pizza Hut. I'm sure T-Mobile won't mind. We can have a
Pizza Hut Canada, not even just regular Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut Canada.
What proportion of our viewers are Canadian? I don't know. It's probably
Probably not that many. I mean, there's only like
Yeah.
10 Canadians on Earth, so there's not that. There can't be that many. So, I mean, think about it. What is the
Very
population
low
of
number of Canadians.
What's the population of Canada? It's like
it's
A
more than
lot.
10. I can promise you, it's more than 10.
no, but compared to like the majority of nations, it's only 37.59 million. That's a very small
That
population.
is very small, actually, isn't it?
They're literally like every Canadian is focused on the border with the northern border of the U.S. That's literally where every Canadian is located for the most part, and like they're all there. So they're all just lining up. Okay. Besides Canadian population, is the point being
Wait,
Gladiators to me? What?
I got the stats. It's
he's got-
6.6% of all of our audience is Canadian.
That's
6.6%.
huge. That's huge.
Is that enough to sell Pizza Hut Canada sponsorships? I'm not sure.
No, I think we just lost the potential sponsor by
Yeah.
that.
Well, if you had just not brought up the numbers, we could have maybe.
I
we could have
mean,
maybe
tell
done
your
it.
friends if you're Canadian.
Watch our show, Canada.
Watch our show, Candace. Yeah, I'm sticking with Glads. I think overall, Glads to me, I would have, if you would ask me like maybe, because I was still pretty down on Houston, even though they were performing well, and I was just like worried about where they were going, and it was looking like they were almost to the point where I felt like I could trust them. But then these recent losses made me pretty quickly realize in a meta that they look really good in that like it just seems like they're inflexible. It seems like this roster doesn't know how to adapt, and Gladiators at the very least, like I feel like they're far more adaptable. So I give it to Glads.
Damn. Are there any hero pools that you think could massively fuck with one of these teams? Because I'm trying to think about that in my head. We can't have Ryan be banned. So I'm thinking like if Sigma got banned and Piggy couldn't play it, but then
I think if
don't
Arissa's
that
banned, that would fuck. I think that would be really bad for Houston if Arissa's banned.
You think that would mess with
Potentially.
them?
Yeah,
I mean,
potentially.
Ryan-
I think that it would mess for them more than Gladiators.
Yes,
Do
it
you think it would fuck
would.
with Gladiators if Diva got banned?
Oh,
Yeah?
maybe. I think. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that would. But
What would
also,
even happen?
Space has
What would
a
even
good.
happen, though, if
Space
Diva
has a
got
pretty
banned?
good Sigma though.
Like what would
if-
happen if
if
Diva
they
was
were
eliminated?
Zarya.
I mean, also they could also try to run the double bubble, and I think Space's Zarya is pretty solid too. Like I think Space, like to me, I don't
Probably
think
his worst
Space's
hero, though.
issues. It might be his worst hero, but I don't think Space's issues were ever like on a mechanical sense. It was just like it felt like he just had poor decision making at times earlier in this season. And I feel like he's just gone back to his old form to where his decision making is a lot better.
I
The,
think
the thing about the
yeah.
Gladiators is if they're forced away from playing skewed on Brig, they have Moth at main support.
Yeah.
So like I have faith in that regard. If they're forced onto those slower
Shu was a
comps, like-
monster. Shu, dude,
Yeah,
these last
Shu was
games when
great.
Shu was playing, Shu was crazy. Shu actually
yeah.
was like the MVP for the Glads on
That
when
guy
they were playing.
fucks. He's
he's
dominating.
wild. He is absolutely wild. Yeah. Interesting. There really still is a serious battle from 2nd to 5th in North America that any of these teams could.
Well, what's
could
your
try.
opinion, Josh? You didn't say anything.
I'm the host. I don't need to give an opinion. Let's move on to talking about APAC. We're going for the APAC updates.
He's probably
Was my-
saving it for his own stream. Watch some VODs, you know, VODs with the boys.
I do.
Give
I need to watch the
give my
VODs. I mean,
opinion.
I literally didn't watch the Gladiators game, so I don't know about their most recent
Unbelievable.
performance. But Shanghai, I'm sticking to my take from last week, which was that Shanghai are the favorites here in the Summer Showdown. Everything that I've watched, okay, they're beating the piss out of a region that maybe isn't playing up to the same quality as the 2nd through 4th, 5th in North America, but still, they look monstrous right now. And I think that the style that they're playing is also going to challenge a lot of the North American teams as well. There's maps that you can pick that make it hyper effective. They breezed through their qualification. I mean, did they even really have a game against New York? It just felt like they kicked the shit out of them. And they've just been doing that the entire stage. I was talking about this recently as well, and somebody was saying, oh, well, they had a pretty easy strength of schedule. But they played against what looked like the two best teams, Seoul and Philly, straight out the gates at the beginning here. So they've played against the best they could. No one's good enough.
You know, their strength of schedule is always going to be like not the best. right?
Because they're playing other APAC teams that aren't looking as hot. You mean?
Yeah, I mean, the way it's looked
Seoul
at times
looked okay,
is like they have like 2 teams that can compare with them, and then everybody else. I would agree with you though. I think they're definitely the favorite coming into the Summer Showdown.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any. I mean, maybe you can argue.
I mean,
Like
Dallas is the other team, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've asked.
I don't think
are you
so.
gonna give it to Dallas, or do you agree that Shanghai are the favorites coming in here?
Man, it's really hard because I fucking think this ball comp's really good right now. I do think it's really good, but I just and Shanghai's already proven. Like honestly, I think I probably would give it to Shanghai. I think I probably would give it to Shanghai looking forward. I just think that right now, I think it will be a banger of a match again. I think it's going to be a banger of a match again. And but I do personally think that the more I've seen, the more unless Dallas pull out the actual perfect TP stratagems or like they bust out like an amazing, but their dive is so good. And I think dive can beat this comp.
I mean,
I
Dive
really
did not beat this comp on Route 66. You know, they played full Moira Lucio, Genji Tracer, and they tried against. And I mean, the difference between the NA teams, the difference between any team playing this comp and Shanghai is enormous. This
really
Echo
is.
Tracer, not as much, perhaps, but when you can get Lip playing Sombra, you've got Fleder on Tracer, Fate on Wrecking Ball, Iziaki's pounding damage from the backline. It's so comfortable for Shanghai as well. Especially with Lip on Sombra, he's able to do shit that no one else really does. It feels like it would be very different.
I do feel like there are options for Dallas, not just dive, but also like maybe more of like the Eternal / Rain way of playing where you just have aggressive TPs. But the thing is, Rain makes that work better because they can play Orisa, and Dallas can't play Orisa. They can't do like TP Orisa strats.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I gotta give it to Shanghai. I think I'm giving it to Shanghai.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. I think it was actually pretty telling in the post-match interview with Fearless how I don't want to say scared. Scared is the wrong word, but like Danny asked about the Wrecking Ball composition and how it matches up against the NA teams, and Fearless was like kind of lost for words. Like it's like he said that it's the best composition if you master the Wrecking Ball composition like this, like Shanghai does. It's the best composition in the game, and he seemed kind of like lost for words in as to like he didn't seem confident at all in like coming up with an answer of like how they were going to face that, what they could do. And yeah, I get their hiding strats or whatever, but it really does seem like Dallas Fuel know that they're at a disadvantage against some of these Wrecking Ball comps, and it will be on them to find an answer. Because otherwise, I think Shanghai are, I don't want to say by far, but definitely the favorites for me.
I want to take a small tangent here as well to talk about New York too, because we don't really talk about the APAC teams as much. There's been a bit of mess going on in the region. It feels very all over the place. But New York themselves did make a pretty significant move that we didn't discuss too much, bringing in Kalios, and we actually got to see them play. I thought this tank line looked pretty improved over the Yakpun Bianca one.
Yeah.
It's not enough to make a major difference for the team, but Yakpung himself ended up looking a little better too, but just because they seem to be a bit more coordinated. I'm not saying Yakpung is suddenly the best main tank in the East or anything, but going from having a tank line that was literally losing you games, this feels like it's less likely to do that. I think I'd put it like that. Was that the impression that other people got as well? You're high on the Kalios pickup? Is this going to make any difference for New York heading towards the end of the season?
I think it ups their game a bit. Do I think it's enough to close the gap between some of those teams at the top? Probably not, like on a consistent basis. It's still, I think, like a work in progress with this team, though, right? For the future, you have a lot of like young players you're trying to bring in. I think Flora. I think the DPS have been pretty good. I think Friday. I don't think anyone really had extremely high expectations for him. He's played quite well. I think the one thing you looked at was like a bit like actual mess was the tank line. So with Kalios in, they looked better. I think you're still kind of, is this the tank line of the future for them? I don't exactly know yet.
Sure. That's a good point.
Yeah, I still think though the introduction of Kalios like made a difference because it is in the APAC region. Like if we had the Countdown Cup happening, I think that New York now could, based on what we've seen from the other teams, compete with the likes of Philadelphia, Chengdu consistently, and compete for a slot in the playoffs even. Because I mean, you're competing with what, Seoul, Chengdu, Philly, essentially for that spot, right? Guangzhou, not really. So if you want to be the second best team in APAC, I think there's room for a team like New York. I still think that Yakpung hasn't really proven it to me. Kalios is definitely a good addition, but if you wanted to try to level up your team to become the second best team in APAC, now would be the time, and I think Kalios helps with that.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about another banger of a match that happened over in APAC, actually. I really enjoyed watching this one. It was Seoul playing against Chengdu. Achilles and Avril were casting it, and it went the entire distance. It really was like a very good game between these two teams. And it showcased some really unusual, well, not unusual, but unusual as it applies to the North American metagame. Both of these teams like to play a lot of the Ball Zen kind of comps, and Chengdu was pulling out Pharah repeatedly. Pharah Sombra, Pharah Hanzo, as a way of dealing with Seoul's rush pick whenever they would move over to that. And this, I'm not saying that Seoul are the best rush team in the world, because they're not, but they're one of the better rush teams that's playing in APAC. They're one of the only teams that wants to go over to it. And Chengdu dealt with them easily every time they made the move over to that, which really, to me, feels like something unusual that the NA teams, especially an Atlanta Reign that loves to run Gator on Reinhardt, this might be a real curveball to throw at a team like that. This Seoul Chengdu match I thought was very entertaining though. I'm feeling not too bad about Chengdu's chances.
I think Chengdu's a wild card.
Yeah,
like going into this, I think that they have a play style that can't be replicated. The ball stuff seems to be pretty effective. Like even Fearless kind of alluding to, right? And with what Shanghai is talking about, I think it's a really interesting match with them in Atlanta. I don't think it's going to be like or do they play Dallas first? Actually,
I don't know how the bracket looks. Actually,
I think they do play Dallas first.
I think they would play Dallas
the lower
first.
APAC seed against the top NA seed. Yeah,
I don't think that's a walkover game for Dallas. I think this team could definitely pose some issues, especially Jinmu starts fucking popping off on this Pharah. What do they do, right?
Well, they don't have a hit scan answer for it,
right.
So the only answer they have is to try and play as fast tempo as possible to get value before Jinmu can farm.
Just does enough damage to just wreck, yeah.
Yeah, and Dallas are a really fast team. If there's any team in the league that you think could get value before Jinmu can find targets to kill, it would be Dallas, right? They're the fastest team in the league at making decisions, pushing, being aggressive. But they really don't have a backup plan if that fails. It's not like, I doubt we're going to see Sparkle or Doha pull out a McCree or whatever to try and deal with it.
Soldier again?
Maybe. Is that going to be effective?
Soldier versus Ball, Diva, Zin. I mean, it depends on what. I mean, I don't think they need to bust out. Like, it depends really. I think they could get away with like a Sombra Tracer or like a Tracer Genji and be fine versus this.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't think they need. I don't think they. You don't. It's not so much you have to ignore the Pharah. It's just like as long as you have players like a Tracer or Sombra and like a Diva and such, you have plenty of options. And if you're playing like Zin or Bap, you have plenty of options to shoot the Pharah to deny value, right? It's just like you just also have the rest of a comp to kill the backline. This backline for Chengdu, including like the Widow, is weak. It's very weak. It relies extremely heavily on like very strong positioning and the DPS finding picks.
Yeah, they very rarely played the Widow. This was only a point A Anubis thing. Normally,
yeah, obviously they wouldn't stick on the Widow full time. I'm just saying, like in general, when they're playing the Pharah, like they have like it still remains the same, right? If they have Leave on Hanzo, right? Like there's still like options there where you can find the value. So I think Chengdu are a wild card and that like they could just theoretically fucking pop off, but I hate pretting for pop off teams. I hate pretting for teams that could just randomly pop off. So I don't see them going far. I just don't see them going far. They could pop the fuck off and they make us look stupid, but honestly, I could fucking say it's gonna rain in the Sahara Desert for like a million years and eventually it's gonna rain.
I'm not saying I think they go far. I think they could they could have a close series with Dallas, like maybe an outside chance of an upset, or like beating Atlanta in like a loser final. I don't think that's like a crazy thing to say.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I actually think that
I'm not gonna say they're gonna win the event. That's fucking wild.
Well, I mean, also like that goes into the whole sports thing, where like if Dallas Fuel lose to the Shanghai Dragons in the winner brackets final and like get crushed against something similar to this, and then Chengdu Hunters, let's say, beat Atlanta and they face Dallas then in the lower bracket final, it's like, who knows, man? Like, I'm not going to take Dallas Fuel for granted if this is what the looks that Chengdu Hunters are going to give us. Yes, they are the underdog, absolutely, but I actually have a lot of respect for Leave, especially. I think if Leave has a good, if he has a good Summer Showdown, he is a top 3 MVP candidate alongside Fearless and Lip, in my opinion. He is that good, and he's helping the Chengdu Hunters that much. He's absolutely insane. So I think Chengdu Hunters actually has a good chance beating Atlanta and could upset the Dallas Fuel.
It's you had to put that one in there after we were getting flamed for not talking about Leave enough, huh? You had to put that one in there.
He is nasty. It's just that his team has not really been doing too much. But now that they're back into another tournament, and this ball comp they look good with. They ran Eamon on the first map, and they were running Eamon, and they have run Yveltal the whole time. Which I'm not exactly sure why you would want to run Yveltal over Nisha in this meta when he's only playing Brig and Mercy, but it still worked for them. It looked good. Like the backline is relatively solid, and yeah, Leave has excellent coordination with Eamon and Gaga, actually, on the ball picks. Jinmu's kind of getting limited value on Sombra, but when he does what he does on Pharah, you can't really be too mad about it because he just offers you so much versatility against other.
Did you see the stats, by the way, for Gaga versus like Marvel on like, I think it was like Eichenwald or something? Like, it was crazy. Gaga had like literally 4 times the stats of everything versus like Marvel. It was just nuts.
Marvel could not play the ball in this series well at all. He was getting punished so hard. I mean, they just put Discord Orb. Oh, that was the other thing as well. Monk looks insanely good. His Ana and his Zen were both popping the fuck off. They just had Discord Orb on a target, and then the ball and the Tracer were on them immediately. The level of coordination between those 3 players on the team was crazy good. And I wanted to get your guys' take on this as well, because this was pretty much the first time we'd seen Late Young be played full-time, playing D.Va for them. He played a bit of Zarya for them as well. Of course, he's known for his Zarya more so than his D.Va and his Sigma and other stuff. We actually saw Late Young play a bit of Sigma on Junkertown. He looked a little lost. And then he played some Ball as well, which was... They played Orisa Ball with Late Young on Ball, which I don't ever want to see again. But
no.
What was the recent retirement of Elsa, who Avast's been talking about being improved this season, but unfortunately retired... I would have thought that putting Late Young in this position would be a liability for them, honestly. But it didn't seem to make an enormous amount of difference, honestly.
No. He seemed fine. I think he seemed fine overall. I mean, like, there's nothing really much to take away. Like, the best you can hope for is that he comes in and is fine, which he was, right? Or I guess not the best. It's like that's what you were hoping for, is that he can come in and be fine. So Late Young seems fine. It's realistic. He has room to improve and get over. I mean, Chengdu is always going to be a team that lives or dies by, like, are their DPS finding like crazy value, you know? Because when you have Leave, who, for all you Redditors out there, Leave's really good. He could be an MVP. I don't think he is, and I said as much on the podcast before, but he's really good. So don't get mad at us. Don't get too mad. Like,
but people saying that we didn't talk about leaving.
No, people were just so mad at us because we were just like, we somehow suggested that Leave was not an MVP.
The mid-season show when we were talking about MVPs.
I was just talking about like we were talking about like people from an A a lot. It was like, well, it's clear they just don't care about APAC, so Leave they don't want to talk about Leave. And it's like, no, I think Leave's really good. I just don't think he's my MVP. Like, that's
it's quite uncommon to get an MVP from a team that hasn't been performing extremely well. Even if you're like, even if you're popping the fuck off. But yeah, I think Leave has an outside shot, but I think it would rely on them doing something in the playoffs. I don't think they've done enough up until this point. They're
you decide the MVP after the regular season.
Leave also has not had an amazing season the whole year. When they first started out, Leave was not.
He kind of has. Leave has
no. He is not the entire time. He is not. If you compare it to like players like Pelican who's like
Dude,
literally...
he's definitely had a better season than Pelican overall, individually. He definitely has.
I don't know.
Leave was fucking farming early on.
I think, don't get me wrong, I understand the league's really good, but I truly believe that Pelican has been so I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just going to get rolled. I mean,
Pelican only has candidacy for Rookie of the Year. There's no shot people are giving him MVP.
No, they won't give him MVP. No, that's true. That's fair. They won't give him MVP. They'll give him Rookie of the Year.
If Leave was a rookie, then of course he'd be like a front runner for that almost. But he's not. You know, he played for them last season, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think regardless, I just don't. I mean, that's fair. I mean, you know, it's too. I've already dug the hole. I don't know why I talked about it. I've dug the hole.
There are other candidates as well that are more deserving. I mean, you're looking at Fearless. You're looking at people like Lip, for example. I mean, you could even have someone.
There are like 3 players in Dallas Fuel above Leave almost. At least it was. You know, it was Sparkle. It was Fearless. And then, you know, maybe if someone wanted to add in,
I think more of the conversation. Is there anything he can do? Is there anything he can do to jump into that conversation? Like, what would Chengdu have to do? They're 7-5 right now.
I think even if they beat Atlanta and play close with Fuel, like Leave has to be mentioned because of how important
he's already in the conversation. Like no one has ever said he's not in the conversation. But Matt's saying
what would he have to do to stop being in the conversation and be a front runner? And I think that's right. And that's a very hard ask, to be honest, because I think it would have to. He'd have to perform. He'd have to look like the best DPS player probably in Hawaii for the Summer Showdown. And he's not even playing
the next tournament. Yeah.
I think you're right, actually. It's so hard with Shanghai and Dallas everywhere.
It's really tough to be an MVP candidate if your team just doesn't win, you know? Like, obviously, like, you can be in the consideration for it, and it's hard to say that he's not, but it's just his team doesn't win, and they just don't have the results to, like, put him up there in the MVP because, like, that's just kind of unfortunately how it's got to be, you know? Like, there are players that are just doing so much for the winning teams. Okay, like, they're winning.
There is an outside chance that they could finish like second in APAC. If they finish second in APAC, is that enough to make it a serious candidate? Probably.
No. You have to be able to compete for stage playoff titles, and Dallas and Shanghai are the only 2.
Yeah, but if they make the next 2, they would have made 3 out of the 4, and they finish second in APAC. That's not.
I mean, you can't compete the finals appearances though. Like the stage finals appearances for Shanghai and Dallas are like. So important.
Right, I guess I look at like MVP as like if you took one of the players off of the Fuel and subbed in like a league average player, I still think they would be a very
if you took Fearless out and you put in a league average player, they genuinely wouldn't be where they are.
Yeah, they probably. If Fearless is the one player you probably would say.
I mean, also imagine like taking out fucking like Sparkle and putting a league average player as well. Like when Sparkle is like it's not just about it's the fact that he's been so incredibly like clutch for this team at times, you know? It's just hard to imagine like so many like replacing some of these people with league average players. Anyway, it's hard to imagine.
We've talked about it. We've talked about it. So now everybody can shut the fuck up.
Now we're gonna be done with it. Yeah.
Okay. The next topic though, I did want to dig into just a little bit more. Is this APAC's time? Is this APAC's meta? Is this where we're going to see APAC have been ahead of the meta for a little bit with the balls end comps? That ends up being what we see being played on a large amount of maps, let's say, and it's Shanghai winning with Chengdu. Let's say coming in third, but actually putting up a good performance. Matt, what is the stat about APAC teams up until now in the playoffs, in the knockouts?
They've won 2 maps, and both of them were wide Chengdu at the beginning. So
right, they've won 2 maps the whole time in Hawaii. Right, that's the stat.
Outside of Shanghai, yeah.
Sure, outside of Shanghai Dragons, yeah. I think this could be an opportunity to turn that around. This to me feels like, but for quite a while, I thought, oh, okay, this balls end comp, it's probably not going to be meta. It does seem like there's ways of dealing with it. The more I've seen it play out in North America, it does seem like it's the best comp on certain maps. And so I could absolutely see this being APAC's time. What's the thoughts for the rest of you?
Yeah, I think they're ahead. I think the Wrecking Ball composition that Shanghai are running is absolutely insane. And I think Atlanta Rain is at a disadvantage. I pretty much talked about this already.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, look, if this is not APAC's time, I don't know when it will be. They seem to be kind of trending in the right direction in terms of the meta. I think even like where Fearless and the Fuel talked about their last trip to Hawaii, how they went in knowing the Wrecking Ball could kind of undo them. And then seeing teams kind of develop that Wrecking Ball strategy, I think APAC does have a little bit of a edge in the meta right now.
I'm not convinced yet, but I do think this is like the closest. This is definitely, if there is a stage, it's going to be this one, right? Because I just feel like there are adaptations to be made to these rush comps. Like if they like, even if you were to play like the Rhine comp and you like when Rain swapped over Edison to the Tracer and they put Pelican like on a Sombra or something, but they kept playing Rhine. Like I think there are like interesting adaptations to be made here where it's a lot harder to like punish this. But overall, I mean, the Wrecking Ball's good. The Wrecking Ball's really good, and synergizing with the Zen is pretty amazing. So I do have to say that this feels like now for the first time APAC's on the front foot, and it's on NA to innovate, to change up their comp heading into, like I think they could just like change up their comp a bit and they'll be okay. But I think it's currently on NA to innovate heading in.
Yeah, I mean, we're not saying that APAC is absolutely going to win or be first and second or anything, because when we said that the Dallas Fuel looked like they were heading to the June Joust, they didn't end up winning it. It was Shanghai that adapted properly and were able to come out and win eventually. So it's absolutely there for North America. But when you look at, if the Balls End becomes meta on most maps, they have the two best balls, the APAC balls. You children. You absolute children.
You're so stupid.
They have the two best Wrecking Ball players, all right? They have the two best Tracer players as well in Hawaii. I don't think that's a debate particularly with Fleder and Leave. And they have very good like backline Zenyatta kind of players as well. Though that is pretty, I mean, you could say that for, I guess, honestly, I think that I would rate the APAC Zens higher than I would the North American Zens heading into this event for Iris and Fielder. I don't think that's really the strengths of those players either. I'm not saying they're bad by any means, but if it is Balls End Tracer, I give that to the APAC teams like most of the time just on player talent.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to.
Yeah.
It feels to me though that it's going to be very map dependent. I don't know about you guys, but when I think about a theoretical Dallas Shanghai game, the control maps where I would favor the Dallas Fuel are like Lijiang, and I think on everything else, you're probably playing Balls End kind of stuff, right? And then Dallas unbeaten on Volskaya, so they're probably like 1-1. All of the escort maps, I think, are favored for a Shanghai kind of team. Maybe Gibraltar is the closest you could get with Fearless playing the Winston. And then a lot of the hybrid maps are also a little difficult for them. So in a 7-map series where you're playing a lot of control and a lot of escort, it does become a little bit difficult to kind of find in your mind where Dallas are getting their 4 wins from.
It's not like Shanghai can't just play something else or deviate from that on some of these other ones where it's not as good. I think it's much harder to expect Dallas to come in and start playing Ball Tracer Zen here with a week's notice.
Yeah. I actually think it falls on Doha a lot this tournament, how much Sombra he plays and how impactful he can be for Dallas Fuel on the Sombra. Because I think that will determine the pace of a lot of these team fight and matches, how Dallas Fuel has to adapt. I really didn't like I could see it, but I didn't like the Genji they pulled out on route against Washington Justice. And I think that was their lesson learned. Like, that's definitely a moment in the post-match VOD review where you go like, he should swap off Genji earlier over to Doha playing the Sombra. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of maps, actually. Like, if you have to play against Chengdu, you don't have a hit scan, Doha, you will have to deal with the Farah playing Sombra, hack him out of the sky. And I think that goes for like the Shanghai Dragons too. Like, how much of a nuisance can you be? So I think if Dallas Fuel are going to adapt and actually win or, get top 2 in this tournament, I think Doha will probably be the most important player in that regard.
Okay. A couple of little pieces before we go into some predictions for the bracket though as well. Philadelphia Fusion fans are absolutely mauled in this week because once again, they gave New York a ticket to the knockouts. It happened in the June Joust, and it happened again in the Summer Showdown. Philadelphia just wandered along and said, hey, New York, do you want to go instead of us? And they were like, yeah, sure. I mean, of course. Why not?
Check their PayPals. Check them.
The entirety of Philadelphia in the second half of the season, or not even the second half, ever since probably, you could say, the end of the May Melee, has just been reality catching up with them, it feels. And I keep going back to Jonathan's goddamn take at the beginning of the season, calling it a honeymoon period, because when you look at the whole season, that's what it looks like. It does just look like they had a honeymoon period in the May Melee, and then reality caught up, and they were like, oh yeah, shit, we're actually... we have all of these problems with visas and rotating players, and it's not our full team, and oh fuck, the world's falling down. And now,
yeah, but I mean, this feels like they got married, and then the water pipe started leaking, and now they're just in recovery mode. No?
Okay, right. So they're back from their honeymoon. They're having a nice, stable marriage, and then things start falling apart around their heads. I mean, I wouldn't use the house analogy in that circumstance. It's like the husband's off drinking every night down the pub, and suddenly you realize that you're trapped alone, and you wish you had your family around you. That kind of scenario.
Terrible.
Why does each analogy get just sadder as we go on? It just gets worse. Each one gets more.
Toby
of a sad,
went to the pub again.
Situation.
I think it's just more of a sad realization that, like, even with everybody, they may not have enough time to hit the peak that they need to.
Sure.
I think that's kind of the thing is, and it may even be settling in with the team and how they feel of like, we don't have enough time left to be able to get to the point that we need to get to. Like, they may have the talent, on the roster. They just might not have the time to incorporate everybody.
When are the playoffs? Like serious play-ins, playoffs, like you must be good by then. Do we have a date?
That's announced.
Has Overwatch League posted it?
I don't think they're announced actually, because we don't.
Do we know?
Yeah.
Okay. Is anything public about like the rough month that they're occurring in? Do we have any kind of timeline whatsoever that's public in terms of like this is how long Philly has?
It just says it just says on the site. Summer Showdown is June, July. Countdown Cup July, August. It says playoffs August, September.
Okay.
So they still have like essentially 2 months.
I mean,
maybe a month.
One before they start playing elimination games, probably.
I hate to break it to you, Josh, but they have to be good in the Countdown Cup, or they're not going to make it.
Sure. Yeah. What are they now? 7-5.
They're 7-5, tied with Chengdu and Hangzhou for the third and final slot, and they have the same map differential of 7 points. And Chengdu could get tournament points or league points.
Right, Chengdu could get tournament points from this, right? So Chengdu, they even have the ability to pass Seoul, like in the outside chance they win, right? But
is there any hope for Philadelphia Fusion fans?
Philly are playing Shanghai in the first match of the Countdown Cup, Hangzhou Spark, New York, and Seoul.
They're all losable games.
Those are all very losable.
But the thing is,
all very losable.
If Philadelphia want to make it to play-ins, their fate is in their own hands. I mean, outside of the Shanghai game, they are losable games, but they're all games that you need to win to prove that you deserve that spot as well. It's not like you can't really say that you've been robbed if that's your final stage or whatever, That's when Philly should be at their best, and they have games where they need to win to prove that they're of the.
And the only game there that's like probably not winnable is the Shanghai game,
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is the one stage. This is all leading up to this point. So Future fans just have to say it, break it to you. I told you so the whole time. Don't know what the fuck was on you guys. You wanted me to put it Fusion APAC second for so long. Just fucking unreal copium from Fusion fans. This entire worse than Houston fans, way worse than Houston fans of the copium. Like Fusion fans, you guys have been nuts. I don't know what you guys were thinking, but like,
what happened, Johnny?
It's not in Philly's hands.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Chengdu's schedule is Hangzhou, Valiant, Guangzhou, and I think it's
Vancouver Titans.
No, that's definitely in Fusion's hands.
You think?
No, Chengdu could just outright, like, those are easy matches.
No, I know they're easy matches, but like knowing Chengdu, they could just randomly lose the charge or something.
They've been doing relatively.
They get a league point here, it'll be an uphill battle.
Yeah, if they get a league point and they're able to,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. If they get a league point, then I don't know. If they get a league point, I don't know. And also, to be fair, I guess Chengdu has been doing pretty good. Like they haven't lost any bad teams in a while.
Are those back-to-back games against New York that I just saw on this?
No,
it's because of the encore.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
I guess that's fair. Like it is. I don't know, but I do think this is the stage that Fusion has the most hope. Like there's just no universe on earth that Fusion was going to do well these past few stages when they were bringing in players and like trying to integrate them. Next stage is their best bet. For sure.
Wait, is there even play-ins for APAC?
Yeah, I think there's still play-ins, isn't there? It's like
why
top
wouldn't
3
there be
get
play-ins?
3 guaranteed or something. Or top 2 get guaranteed or something like that.
I'm reading Wikipedia. It says top 3 from West and top 2 from East. I don't know about play-ins. It doesn't say anything about these play-ins. Matt, isn't this your job?
I don't think the details around that has been released yet.
For play-ins, who makes the play-in for APAC going into the final stage?
That's quite important.
I don't think it's on the site or anywhere.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
okay.
We'll deal with it as it gets closer to the time anyway, right?
It doesn't. The thing is, it doesn't really matter right now. The whole point is like, does Fusion have a chance to turn around? And the answer is yes. They have a chance. They have a chance to turn around next stage. These last 2 stages, if you thought Fusion had a chance, you were delusional because they were integrating players and it just wasn't going to happen.
Well, they're still integrating players. They still don't have Poco in the country, and they still haven't.
Yeah, but at this point,
Shockwave.
you should assume that Poco is not going to be playing.
What about Shockwave?
You should just.
Because that's a pretty big addition.
Shockwave's in the country at least, so Shockwave they could.
He was in quarantine. So when we were asking for him to be fielded, he was in quarantine and couldn't play with them. So I think he's only just now becoming available for them. So that could reintroduce its own either issues or benefits because they need him, but they're probably going to go through some teething issues of getting him involved in the team. Plus, he hasn't even been, he's been like scrimming with them on high ping. It's not like he even has much high-level match experience at this point, honestly, because he's taken almost an entire year off. It's pretty brutal for a guy that
either way, I think this is the stage they have the most control of it. Is it good for them still? No. It's just the stage they have the most control because there's the less amount of players to rotate, right?
Shockwave's probably meeting his teammates for the first time.
Yeah.
Very possibly.
Yeah. It's just a rough year for Philly, honestly. It's a rough year.
We talked about Leave a little earlier on, but here's another name that Jonathan wanted to throw into the mix. He's not here now, but we'll discuss it when he comes back as well. Is Shy. Shy, DPS player, Hangzhou Spark. He's a player that slipped under the radar. Definitely did for me as well. I forgot he was even a rookie, I'm going to be honest. I thought that he had joined the team at the end of the 2020 season, but he didn't. He joined in October after the season had already finished. So Shy has been playing for them. He has been popping off for the Spark. Is he a Rookie of the Year candidate? Is he someone that might slip in towards the end of the season if Spark have a bit of a run and he pops off? Has he got an outside shot? The Rookie of the Year seems to be pretty open at the moment. It's not like there's one clear front runner. What are you thinking here?
I think it's a possibility. If the Spark end up making like the overall postseason, he's a huge reason why, right? Their season kind of turned around once they put him in the lineup. Played God's B out of the position, and then is really like once they started to play him consistently. I remember we were talking about we want to see more Shy. They've been good. So I think if they continue on this pace, and they haven't made, I think, the arguments like, well, somebody like Pelican, right, who's made 2 tournaments already. Spark haven't made it to any of them yet. That would kind of be one where you look at. It's kind of tough to say over, but he's got to be up there in terms of candidates.
Yeah, he's definitely a candidate. I think the question is more so like, is he a front runner and candidate? The other people that we talked about at the midseason were Nisha hasn't actually been played in the recent weeks for the Chengdu Hunters, I think, or at least in the most recent games. So I feel like that isn't as clear cut as it might have been. Piggy, but the Houston Outlaws, if they're on a decline, maybe the Piggy argument declines with it a little. And then Pelican, right? Those are the 3 outside of Shy that people were looking at. Is there someone else? I think those are the 3 mainly.
Even like
Mag, we had like
Mag,
there's technically Mag, yeah. There's Mag also. People had thrown forward like the potential for like Khan Rookie of the Year, but like
right.
I don't think that's holding water. I honestly now for Paris Eternal, I'm gonna make if I were to put some for Paris Eternal, I'm swapping around. I'm giving Vestola, dude. I think that guy's nuts. I think that guy's fucking crazy.
He's really good.
So
Yeah,
He
he wasn't
missed
with
some of
them.
the season.
Yeah, but
he did miss some of the season though.
Shy missed some of the season too, but the kind of to his credit, he turned them around. Or not turned them around, but they've looked a lot better since he's been added. And I think you could say the same for Paris too. What's
sure? They actually they hired an actual coach as well, Angelo Spark, when they turned around. Luckily, but Shy, still part of that. The problem is that the candidate pool is so large currently because it's so open for grabs with Pelican. Like, we could probably mention like 8 rookies who are around a similar level. If you consider the Hangzhou Spark, and part of the reason why I thought this was an interesting conversation, because I tweeted this out as well. I said it on the Watchpoint show actually. That was like, you have to question Hangzhou Spark's success, and not simply just look at Shy's individual performances. I feel like if you succeed as a player and if you win, I feel like that should in some form contribute to your MVP claim. You can't just be on a garbage team and just like, hey, he's getting final blows, he has good stats. There's a line there, and it's a gray area. Well, that contradicts, I suppose. It's like a gray area of like how much you value team effort, winning, versus how much you value individual performance. But I feel like if you look at Hangzhou Sparks in their season, they're 7-5 currently in the APAC region. And then you have similar teams like the Houston Outlaws, who are currently 9-3. Washington are 8-4. Gladiators are 8-4. Atlanta Reign are 7-5 with league points because they actually made a stage playoffs. Chengdu Hunters and Nisha, they made a stage playoffs. I feel like Hangzhou Spark, if they don't actually make a stage playoffs in Countdown Cup, I have a hard time really like just giving Shy the Rookie of the Year because he played well individually. When you have some of these other teams actually competing for actual stage titles on the winning teams.
Yeah.
It's hard to quantify I guess it's hard to really compare somebody like Shy, who plays such a pop-off role. Like, everything he plays, you can look good on, even if your team is bad. And you don't even have to be coordinated. You could be trying to bait your team and get kills, and you would still look good doing it, even if you might contribute negatively to team success. I'm not saying he does. I think he does contribute. But if you're trying to compare that style to someone like Piggy, who is doing very well in his role on a team that's having more success than the Spark is, although still they're not making it to stage finals and stuff, but a 9-3 team, I think the Houston Outlaws are right now, on a role that's, you can only look good if you're doing stuff with the team. Sigma is not like I'm gonna just decide to hard carry this team fight kind of role. Comparing those is like apples to oranges. I simply don't know how you can have a proper discussion about like who would deserve it more in that scenario. I keep going back and forth on it in my head, but
I think they cater to Shy's McCree in this composition, for example. Like, you're playing McCree with Brigana. That's a little, squadron that you move around the map and you pocket Shy, try to find picks.
Yeah.
I think the most impressed I've been with Shy actually was when he played the Echo, I think, in the June Joust, and legitimately like Echo diffed Fleta at times. I think they beat Shanghai Dragons, didn't they, in the June Joust? And he like Echo diffed him and was like straight up carrying the Hangzhou Spark. Because that was like, yo, this guy's fragging out and is the complete and 100% difference maker for the Shanghai Dragons. So that's where like I valued that performance over them like playing around him like they're doing here, like pocket the dude. Yeah. I guess you should put some value in that, because that's, if a team is willing to go that far in a strat to just pocket one guy, then I guess that's impressive in its own right.
Yeah. There's many different ways that you can form these arguments as well. I don't know. It's an interesting race, honestly. It's more interesting to me, the Rookie of the Year, than the MVP race, to be honest, at the moment. But the MVP race itself is still wide open. I feel like it's way more wide open than it was in previous years. It always felt like we knew who it was by this point in the league. Let's get on to some pick'ems. Let's do some bracket preds, huh? Get the blood flowing. We've already talked over some of it, but I think the opening game, are we able to do actual pick'ems, or do we have to just look at a bracket and...
Oh, it's up now. It's up now.
Yeah. Oh, the pick'ems are actually live on the website? Yep. Nice. Pick'em.overwatchleague.com. What's the opening game? There's an opening game with Dallas playing against Chengdu. Is that the first one, or is it Atlanta?
I believe so.
Yeah. All right.
I'm loading.
Is anyone crazy enough? These are still locked. What the fuck is going on here?
They're not for me.
Okay. Well, I'll start talking about Dallas Chengdu then. Is anyone gonna give me the storyline by which Chengdu wins? What would have to happen for that to occur?
Dallas boomed by wrecking ball.
Dallas gets boomed by the ball and can't adjust, or adjust too late, in the sense that, Chengdu goes up 2-1, Dallas figures out something to stop it, they win a map, and then Chengdu can pick a map that ball is good on and win again, right? I think that's the only way.
How likely is that to occur? Because the Dallas Fuel have already shown that they are potentially weak, or at least were in the June Joust, to wrecking ball compositions. Chengdu Hunters have Aemon, they have Gaga.
Gotta be a fear, right?
Yeah.
They have two really good ball players. They also have the capabilities of playing the Pharah, giving them trouble without the hit scan, if that comes into play. We know Leave can do a really nice job on like the Tracer. It is a scary opponent. It's not like a walkover, it's not like a NYXL like from the last one, right? Where they just didn't really have a shot. I think Chengdu is definitely a scary opponent.
Yeah. I think this could actually be a legitimate banger, but I don't really see Fuel losing this. I don't see Fuel losing this still, because at its core, Chengdu are still not coordinated enough, in my opinion, to beat Dallas. I think Chengdu has the talent. They have just not achieved the coordination. I think that's the issue with them. And I think also with the current, since there aren't any hero pools, there's a lot of options available for Fuel to make adjustments to deal with this. There's a lot of ways that they're going to be, they're going to be doing some homework. I know they have a lot of like shitty travel schedule and like with going to Hawaii and everything, but they would have done some homework in preparation for dealing with this ball comp moving forward.
Definitely.
Their match. And I think there's a lot, and I think Rain are going to do the same. So I feel like Fuel should still be favored, in my opinion.
Agreed. 3-1.
I'd make it. You could make the argument for 3-2.
I think it goes 5. I think it definitely goes 5. I would be surprised if it didn't. I would, because there are so many reasons why you would want to go for Chengdu here. Like on the control maps, even if Dallas, so say Dallas loses the escort map towards the end and it goes to 5, they get to pick the control map to finish it on. So okay, advantage Dallas. But anywhere you pick. So Dallas in that scenario would pick both of the control maps that they play in the series as well.
They picked Nepal against Washington.
But if you do pick Nepal, Chengdu's just going to come out on Pharah. And then what do you do? Like, I don't understand exactly what Dallas's answer to the Pharah comp is going to be. If they try and play the Tracer Sombra themselves, then I feel like you're leaning into trying to battle Leave, and Leave is looking really good. So I think there's a serious chance of an upset here, but because it's Dallas and they've been so good all season long, I just can't pred against them. But I do think for the Chengdu Hunters fans, there is some chance here of just having the right stuff in this metagame to be able to deal with the Dallas Fuel.
Since both teams have 2 lives, which of the 2 teams here do you think learns the most about the other team in this series? Like, do you think Dallas Fuel learns how to beat the Chengdu Hunters here? Or do you feel like the Chengdu Hunters figure out how to beat Dallas Fuel later on?
I don't think Chengdu are learning anything. I think Chengdu are playing the shit that they want to play, and that they're not going to adapt. Like, their adaptations have already come playing the regular season, in my opinion. Like, if Dallas Fuel come out and they're playing Rush Symmetra comps, and it beats what Chengdu are doing with the Pharah, because they're just like teleporting into their backline and getting a pick on Monk and then escaping like thieves in the night. If they do that kind of shit, I don't think Chengdu is going to adapt and like change the style that they play. I think they're just going to try and play what they play better. They're just like, okay, well, Jinmu, you've just got to hit more rockets then. And Monk, you've got to run the fuck away from the
not in a macro sense, but there's like a hero pick here and there, Like instead of Jinmu playing like Sombra here, we put Leave on the Sombra instead, and we like
Jinmu plays Pharah.
Like a hero, something like that. It makes a big difference in close matches like this. But I agree with you. I just think it's an interesting question because generally speaking, teams have learned a lot about each other in these double elimination brackets playoffs.
Yeah, I think Fuel will learn a lot about the APAC style in general in this match. Even if they lose, even if they get upset by Chengdu, I think they can come up with some answers potentially for like facing even Shanghai later on down the road. I think this could be the weakest look of the Dallas Fuel in the entire tournament, is this opening run. Like, I think they're going to look vulnerable here to begin. And then it's about their championship mentality and their ability to like poach improvements into their own game. I think in some sense it's like Shanghai from the June Joust. It's how much can Dallas actually adapt as the tournament goes on.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is like this will be a really good test to see where the NA teams are with dealing with the ball, and specifically Dallas. I think if you saw Dallas lose this series, I think the next one becomes pretty easy to predict. I think Shanghai would be able to take out Atlanta. Although Atlanta plays a little bit of a different style, I still like Shanghai in that one.
Yeah, what's the path for an Atlanta victory here? I'm not exactly sure. Like, maybe if Atlanta wins this series, it probably just indicates that the Balls End comp is not good.
Yeah.
You know? It's like we completely misread it, and actually Balls End is easily counterable by, like, teleporting Orissas around or something. Like, unless there's a clear answer that Atlanta Reign have theory crafted beforehand, I feel like it should go the way of the Dragons.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Shanghai Dragons being the upper seed, they pick like some Oasis or no, something like that. I don't know. Busan, maybe. I don't know what the map's going to be. And then I think the map rotates. So this week we had Assault second. I think that becomes Hybrid second this week, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, isn't it like they like move, one
They
every
move down
week?
the line, right?
Yeah, so I think it's Hybrid, and I think Atlanta like forces Kings Row or some shit, and like they beat Shanghai with like Symmetra teleporter strats on Kings Row. I think that's about all they get here, really. From there on out, I think it's an uphill battle.
Huh. It goes Hybrid Assault Escort. That is interesting.
The map pool does change things a little bit, but overall...
No, it's Hybrid Escort Assault.
It's Hybrid Escort Assault.
Interesting. That does change things a little bit, honestly.
That's really interesting as well for Dallas, too, because if you have it in that order, if they lose Escort, they get to pick Volskaya, and they just insta-win. Because they're 10-0 all season. So that is kind of like a buff for the Fuel there, in that anytime they lose on Escort, they're just going to win the next map straight afterwards. So... yeah, but it also means that Hunters would get the final control map pick if it went 5. It also means that Hunters would... yeah, okay, the map pool order does actually change some stuff. But what are we thinking score-wise for this? Avast, give me a score for the Dragon's Reign.
I think this is gonna... I think I could totally see this going to map 5.
Really?
Oh.
Because I totally can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, because they'd pick Assault, maybe? Do you think Atlanta would like lose Escort and then pick Assault and do like Hanamura Symmetra TP or something?
I think they'd be fine on Assault maps, and I also think I truly still think that Reigns is currently more well suited to playing against this ball comp than Fuel. I actually
Is that because they're
so.
willing to play Orisa?
It's because they're willing to play Orisa. Yes. I think they're more, and also I think that during their match or their earlier matches too, when they started playing even the Rhine comp and were swapping, like they were doing things that Dallas weren't doing, where they were still willing to play the Rhine, but then putting Edison on Tracer and putting Pelican on Sombra. And I think that's a DPS lineup that actually enables them to continue to potentially play Rhine into this, because it becomes a lot harder to set up your engages when you have 2 DPS that can pressure the fuck out of Leave and Jinmu as well, and also keep like the ball in the back line. Like, because the whole strength of that comp is your backline so far away, and you're just getting pressured the whole time, because there isn't really generally as much spam, especially when Leaves on Tracer. It's more so you're getting caught by the slams, getting caught by rocket engages, some of the discords and stuff. So if you have the ability to peel away the DPS earlier and to peel away Fate earlier, then it's a lot harder for that comp to get value onto and to engage, right? If you're pressuring them out first.
Yeah.
So if you have more mobile DPS, I think there's a real chance that Reign could make it close. Do I think Dragon's overall talent and synergy will probably prevail? Yes. Do I think Reign could make it close, though, based on what I've seen of their adjustments? Also, yes. And I think they're more like compositionally favored. I would, in fact, this tournament, I would almost think that Rain is potentially more favored against Shanghai than Fuel. So, yeah.
I could see that argument. I can see the argument there. I would not have gone for a whoa, Mr.
No, I don't think Rain wins that. I'm not going to say Rain wins
though. But
I still think Dragons.
I don't think I would personally predict a map 5. But Matt, Jonathan, what are you thinking? Are you?
I thought a good old gentleman's sweep by the Dragons, a good old 3-1, a good old 3-1.
How is that a gentleman's sweep?
Because they give away a map.
They give him a map. They give him one. It's a gentleman's sweep.
Is that a phrase in sports, or have you just made that shit up?
Yeah, no, it is.
Okay,
you give him one game.
You give him a game. All right, Johnny, what are you thinking? Where's the vote going to?
I was on the 3-1 train, but Avast might have swung me over to the 3-2, considering I'm expecting Atlanta to win Kings Row and then maybe like Hanamura. Okay. So I'm down for either. You pick.
Let's go for a 3-2. Why not? We'll go 3-2 Andes.
Make it gigabangers.
So elimination round 1. Here's where I think Chengdu will get. What's the word? I think that Chengdu kind of need to upset against the Fuel because I think they match up worse against the Atlanta Rain. So to me, I think there's more upset potential against the Fuel because the Farah, they don't have a great answer to that, and the Tracer diff potentially as well.
They're not gonna play Orisa.
In this matchup, I see Atlanta being able to deal with the Chengdu Hunters more than the Fuel being able to deal with the Hunters because they can go to compositions where they can deal with the Farah. Like if they're playing the Ryan comps, I would put quite a lot of faith in Kai or Edison to be able to pressure Jinmu so that they don't have to just int.
I mean, Chengdu were a pretty diverse team as well. Like the Farah thing, I think has been overblown a little bit. It's obviously a hero that will be important against Atlanta when they play the slower comps. But like Chengdu has proven as well that they're willing to play like Jinmu, Hansu, or whatever in like a double, like a Orisa comp themselves. Jinmu playing Sombra, and like Lee playing Tracer, which probably won't. No, if they play Jimmy, they're throwing. Fuck Jimmy. But I think that Chengdu, they're not locked into the Farah as much as I think people believe. I think they could come up with some fun answers here.
You think if Atlanta force Rhine, that Chengdu
I think this is going to
not force Farah?
They could, yes, of course. I mean, they could play the Farah if they wanted to. But I think, like, if they put KSF, or not KSF, if they put Kai on the, like, McCree to just deal with Jinmu, I don't think Jinmu is going to hang around on the Farah and play that mismatchup.
Yeah, I mean, he did against Fitz and Prophet on Seoul. He just kind of outplayed them. You're really exposing yourself if you play McCree, trying to find the angles onto the Farah, and then you've got like Bull and.
I mean, yeah, I'm not sure Chengdu knows, but if Kai is playing hit scan, I think that's like
has Kai even been fielded that much? Hasn't it mostly just been Pelican and Edison?
Did he see a couple of maps?
I think he played one game this weekend.
Was it just one? I don't know.
It has mostly just been Edison playing Sim for them, and then they play like they play like Torb and shit if they
but
need to bunker.
They've shown a willingness to play Kai, if they need to rely on his hit scan to win the game. And so I think if you prepare with the mindset that Jinmu's going to play Farah, I could definitely see them sub in Kai for certain maps. But I think that means Chengdu can capitalize on Kai's limited hero pool. So I think this is going to go down to the wire. I think this is going 5 maps.
I mean, it's so unlikely that everything goes 5 maps, but it could. It could. I don't know, man. I really do think that Chengdu has a good shot of being able to win against either of the NA teams. But I feel like if you pred them match by match, it's hard to actually go for the Hunters, Yeah. Like, if we were doing this based on percentages, I think they've got a pretty decent percentage chance of making it into being the 3rd place team. But if you have to predict the score of each match, I might predict the Hunters to lose them both like 3-2. But it feels... I do think the Chengdu Hunters will win one of them, though.
I think you could go either way on this one, to be honest. I don't think there's like a...
I still favor Rain. I favor Rain, I think.
Little NA simps on Plat Chat Overwatch.
Well, the thing is, though, if this is like, I legitimately feel like Rain is just in a better position currently than Fuel when it comes to playing against APAC. That's just how I currently believe.
I think Chengdu wins Escort. I think they have a good chance on Assault. Hybrid, it does, like, imagine if Atlanta Rain, I think they pick map, right? If they pick like Lijiang and they win Lijiang, I mean, still you have to deal with Jinmu's far on like night market and shit. Yeah, I think Atlanta probably win King's Row. Or no, sorry, they take Lijiang. Then Chengdu has map pick on Hybrid.
Yeah.
So what do you go like?
Eichenwald? Eichenwalde, I guess. What is the best hybrid map to take people to if you play Ball's End? Is it Hollywood? I don't know. Probably. Maybe it's Ike. I'm not really sure.
I still think Atlanta are like favored probably on those hybrid maps, right? And then you're like 2-0 scenario.
I don't know. I don't really know that they are. I mean, if you're trying to play some teleporter strats on Eichenwald or Hollywood, I think the more mobile compositions of the ball would tend to win out, I think, just theoretically. I'm not really sure.
Probably go Eichenwald and play like a Farah ball defense or something like that.
Yeah, you totally could. Totally could. All right, where are you going? We've got to pick somebody. We've got to actually.
I'll go with Atlanta then. I'll go with Atlanta then.
Fucking simps.
I'll fucking do some crazy shit and shake Chengdu.
Well, it doesn't matter, Matt, because the other two have already predicted the. Gosh,
I believe in. I mean, I could see Rain losing. So if you really want to push for Chengdu, I'll say fuck it.
No. We want to play exactly into the Redditors' hands when they say they always overrate APAC, NA. They never talk about APAC. We're just going to do it again. After saying Shanghai are the favorites and this is APAC's meta, we're now going to predict bloody NA to win, aren't we?
But I'm not predicting NA to win. I'm just predicting Rain to win that matchup. I'm not. Right. And
I'm willing to change with Chengdu.
Nope.
Okay.
No, Johnny, we still have the chance. In, Johnny.
I'm not taking this pity party. Dallas, Shanghai.
We can still redeem Wolf.
Tweet
Shanghai wins.
Tweet your complaints about APAC at Reinforce on Twitter.
How many maps does the Dallas Fuel win here?
One.
I think I might take one. Yeah. 3-1.
Uno map.
Okay. If they were getting 3-0'd, Dallas would get to pick Kings Row and Volskaya. If they were losing, if they get map pick, they're favored on both of those, right?
Who gets map pick here? Because they're both 1 seed.
I don't know. What, you mean opening map pick? I don't know. But I don't think it really matters either. I'd take the Shanghai Dragons on... I might take Dallas on Lijiang, perhaps, but they lost to the Washington Justice there as well, so I'm not...
Shanghai has 15 league points. I wonder if that makes a difference. Dallas has 14.
Probably does. Breaking a tiebreaker.
So what is the map order? Someone lay it out for me. It's Control, then...
Hybrid, Escort, Assault, I think. I'm trying to check, but I'm not getting a response.
I'm telling you, this might be another 3-2, because Dallas gets to pick Kings Row if they lose map 1, and then they get to pick Volskaya if they lose on Escort.
I'm less confident in Dallas versus... I'm less confident, though, on the other maps. I think Shanghai could make their comp work on other maps.
Yeah, possibly. But, I mean, Dallas are 10-0 on Volskaya. They're not losing that map, surely, if they go to it.
But they haven't played anyone the caliber of Shanghai Dragons in this comp.
True. I feel like being a 3-2 Andy again, but I'm fine with a 3-1. I'll take a 3-1. I think it more correctly shows the relative strength of the two teams. We expect the Dragons to be significantly better. Right? Yes. Jonathan's still got a puzzled look on his face, like he's trying to...
Yeah, I'm trying to think like through. Assault, because as you said, I think Shanghai wins Escort, and like what Assault would Dallas win? I could see them actually...
Dude, they're picking Volskaya.
They're probably gonna pick
10 times out of 10.
Probably, yeah, but like against Shanghai's comp, yeah, okay, fair enough. You win me over. I'll probably say 3-2 as well then. But
they're fucking everything's a 3-2. Put it back to 3-1. Put it back to 3-1.
No.
Move on. Jonathan doesn't get to change his pick.
Why does that matter? It doesn't matter. It's just
it doesn't matter.
Your psyche is weak. It has nothing to do with it.
Who's got the weaker psyche out of the NA teams? Who wins? Atlanta, Dallas?
I think Fuel wins. I think Fuel wins that one.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
I would take Dallas.
Comprehensively,
Yeah.
is that an easy win for them? 3-1, 3-0. What's going on?
I don't think it's an E. I mean, I don't. I think this is. It could be like a. I could see it being like a 3-2 again. Honestly, maybe.
For fuck's sake.
I could. I mean, why are we upset? Why are we upset that these teams are close? Why are we upset about that? You know,
it's the coward's way out. You know,
but it's not
like
a coward's way.
gentleman's
That's
sweep.
what you truly believe. I don't. It's
Give
only
me
a coward's way out.
Give me a 3-0.
So, are you? Is there like any? I want to hear a reasoning though why you believe it shouldn't be a 3-2. Why shouldn't it be a 3-2 when Reigns performed so well?
Last time.
Why shouldn't it be a 3-2? Give me like it seems like we're just upset for no reason.
I think it's
just
very
Josh.
statistically unlikely that every game goes 3-2. It's just
we
not
just had
likely
like
to occur.
Fucking 5 map 5s in the knockouts.
Yeah, we did have quite a lot of them. All right.
7 full holds in one day.
Okay, all right. The Dallas Fuel win 3-2. Move on into the finals.
No,
this can't be a 3-2. This cannot be a 3-2.
Wait.
Oh fuck me! What?
What? What do you want?
So when they last time went to 5 maps, Atlanta won Root and Eichenwalde, and Dallas won Temple of Anubis.
Yeah.
And Dallas won Nepal and Busan. How
is this going anywhere?
Talk about how this match plays out. How? Okay, we're just not blindly, because we do respect the Dallas Fuel. Why should they beat the Atlanta Reign so convincingly? Or like,
because
why?
Rain is not good at ball comps. They're not gonna be nearly as good at the balls in comps, which is Dallas Fuel's.
Just play Rhine comps.
Yeah, but I think
match will be Rhine comps.
But I think we're having some recency bias because of the match versus Justice, where Fearless was just playing poorly.
Sideshow, do you like Gator or Fearless better in the Reinhardt duel here?
I mean, over the course of a whole series, Fearless, yeah. I think in the Dallas-Atlanta game that was incredibly close, I think Gator played like better than you could normally expect from Gator, and Fearless still got the better end of him over the course of the whole series.
Like I think the only reason we think it's going to be close is because the Justice game showed that Fuel could lose the rush, but I feel like a huge reason that game was that close is because Mag had an amazing series and Fearless had a really bad series.
No,
it requires Fearless to have a bad series, though.
I think Atlanta's good in the rush. That's why I'm hesitating.
Yeah,
and
but
I will only be rush.
No, but I think Fuel's really good in the rush too.
Yeah, I think this is a matchup of two decent teams. I think that this is. I mean, this is absolutely not how I would spread the bracket, but I think I'd still probably give it to Dallas. I mean, fuck it. So we've set ourselves up for a Dallas Shanghai finals here. What happens in the grand finals?
4-1 Shanghai.
4-1.
4-1. I'm down for that.
Yeah, I'll take a big Shanghai win as well.
I don't totally see it 4-1, but I'll say fuck it and just like
3-2.
Yeah, there you go. No, 3-2. No, I don't think. No, I still think it would be a convincing. Not a single. The other Shanghai game, I did not convince it to be a 3-2 either. I think you guys are just papiche. You don't understand that the current level of Overwatch is currently very close.
We're not papiche.
You are papiche. You are papiche. Matt, you can't count. You can't count.
That was rude. Yeah, that was even ruder.
The can't count joke,
you
by the way,
falling for Sideshow's bait. All he's been doing is stirring the pot this whole time.
Yeah, I'm just doing a bit of shit stirring.
Yeah, everybody always says, Kurt, that I'm the one that stirs the pot, but it's really Josh.
I mean, you do, but you don't do it intentionally.
That was stirring.
You're literally trying to turn Kurt against me right now. You are stirring
I'm not.
the Plat Chat
I would never
pot.
try and turn Kurt against you.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
You guys are buddies.
Dragons end up taking this one. If the Dragons take this, and it is in some kind of decisive fashion, does that start to push Dragons into comfortable territory as the best team of 2021? Is this the turning point? Because up until now, it's been pretty much dead even between those two teams. And you could even maybe argue that the Fuel were marginally ahead because they have a harder region to play in. But if this bracket ended up happening, or something like the Dallas Fuel getting upset by Chengdu or maybe by Atlanta, if something like that occurs, which it could, does the narrative start to become that the Shanghai Dragons are quite clearly the best team of this year?
Yes.
So, I think there's still one more stage, right? If they've been really even up to this point, I don't think I could make the call until I see the last stage.
Okay. You would want to hold off?
Yeah, I'd want to hold off. I mean, it'd be one thing if Shanghai, so they've won a tournament. Dallas won a tournament. Dallas has been a harder region. Now they're both in the finals again, right? they're so even that I feel like unless Shanghai just blows fuel out of the fucking water, I don't see how that we can make the call after this. If they blow them out of the water, though, if we're dealing with like 3-1s, 3-0s, 4-1s, 4-0s the whole time, like if it's even more dominant than what we're predicting, then I could be okay saying like, okay, yeah, probably.
I think it will start to cement Shanghai as a dominant team, just because I think even how well that Fuel is played, they'll have kind of the title of like, best of, NA or best in the West, but I think there'll become a lot of questions, right? Because if you lose in this type of fashion, the way we kind of predict, you have a lot of like, well, can they play this? What if this is banned? What comes up here? They don't have hit scan. Where's Pine? Like, I think it just raises a lot of questions moving forward.
I mean, does anyone think Pine is going to get played this stage in Hawaii? No. I mean, we had the exact same question last time. Well, sorry?
You're getting to the point where is he going to play at all?
I mean, I don't think so. I don't think he is going to be played at all. And I think that's a good thing for the Dallas Fuel, honestly. But maybe a bad thing for the fans who would have wanted to watch him. I think we had another topic, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, of course.
Player of the Week, presented by T-Mobile. Woo!
There it is. Thank you. It's the most important topic of the week. Every week, it's Bren's Player of the Week, presented, of course, by T-Mobile. And you'll have to give me a moment to think about this because I forgot that this was coming up. Jonathan, if you were going to pick somebody, who would you pick?
If
it was Reinforce's Player of the Week, presented by T-Mobile.
Reinforce Larsson.
Love Island's Avast.
We're going to pick a player of the entire week. I'm talking the entire week, okay? I would personally, in my honest opinion, pick the one and only.
You're stalling like a motherfucker.
The best clone Love Island, Chad.
That's who you would pick. That's a
that
tragedy.
Or like Sparkle dancing on the Dallas Fuel stage. I mean, I don't know, dude. You gave me no leeway whatsoever here.
No. Okay, I've got two people. I've got two people that I'm going to go for here. The first one is who Bren would pick. And the second one is me correcting for Bren. Bless you, by
Bless
the way.
you, Johnny.
All right.
Thank you, Kurt.
Bren's Player of the Week, presented by T-Mobile. I can guarantee you, if he was sat right here, what he would say. He'd say Luke Shaw for scoring in the first 2 minutes against Italy. I can guarantee
you guys can fast forward for the next
Shaw.
20 seconds, maybe 2 minutes of the episode. To get to the real Player of the Week.
For SBM.
But
sorry, Kurt.
I think the real Player of the Week, as in a genuine player, not a football player, I think I would give it to Leave. I think because the Chengdu Hunters have managed to get into another knockout, the team is looking good, and it's not all because of him. He's not hard carrying the team by any means, but he's having such a large impact for the squad, especially when he's able to play Tracer, and being able to outperform Profit on Tracer as well in the Seoul Chengdu match. Not that they were playing it the entire time, but when they were, that I think he would be a very worthy candidate this week of being somebody who performed at a high enough level to be able to get himself into the knockouts again and be able to take another trip, this time to the Summer Showdown. So yeah,
to explain this image, these are all the heroes he played versus Philadelphia Fusion this week.
That is madness, actually. That is mad. Why was
he did play a lot of heroes?
Yeah.
He's very good.
I like that they've just taken Echo and then Echo duplicating Orisa. That doesn't count, by the way. He didn't actually play Orisa. That doesn't count. He just duplicated. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to the little Reddit simps. I think Leave deserves it this week. I think there's other candidates that were good on Chengdu too, like Monk, and we saw Eamon in as well, so could have thrown it towards Eamon or Gaga, but yeah, I'm gonna go for Leave.
What's the antonym for Player of the Week?
It'd be like shithead of the week or something. Like who
I think
who really fucked up this week. Something like that.
If we had Brent's shithead of the week presented by T-Mobile, I think it'd be me because I just learned that the map order does not in fact change for tournament weekends, and our pick-em bracket is invalidated. And
you fucking
the word
boomed.
is
You've boomed
the official
us.
word is that it's control, assault, hybrid, escort, like this past week. Control, hybrid, escort, control, escort.
So that's
it was in
so
fact
that's
not changed.
I'd keep it.
So it's not
week.
a buff to the Dallas Fuel. It's actually, yeah. I believe in the Chengdu Hunters and the Shanghai Dragons more than I did before then. I genuinely think Dallas could look vulnerable in this stage.
All right, shit of the week, everyone.
Yeah, Bren's fuck up of the week.
Oh,
don't
DMCA
play
guy.
that again.
Who was
I'll be having
that?
words with our producer. That
That
was
Messi.
nothing. You didn't see it.
That's my off-season ad revenue. Come on, it's gone now.
Yeah, it's all disappeared now. I'm going to DMCA it. Okay, we've got another few things to just wrap up before we finish this episode 95 as well. The first one being, welcome to member. Any new members? Curtis, any new members?
Members?
Pulling
Hold
up
on, I
football
was
clips,
trolling
weren't
you.
You were pulling up more clips of
okay.
England, Italy, weren't you?
Hold on.
Yeah, I can hear him
He
giggling
was doing
in
a
his
little,
room.
just a pinch hand amount of trolling.
Yeah.
Just a pinch hand amount.
I like to do a little bit of trolling around
Yeah,
here.
they won't play the Luke Shaw win, though, will they? The goal at 2 minutes. That was off. Yeah, looking good there. Okay, are these all the new members?
Yes, +1.
That's a Swedish name at the top, and I'm not even going to try
No,
it.
that's
Jonathan, kick us off.
Danish.
Oh, is it
Birgitte
Danish?
Möller. Yeah. It's
How
a
do you pronounce
Danish
this?
umlaut. Or not, that's not even an umlaut. Birgitte Möller.
Ah, Brigitte.
There we go.
It's like Brigitte, but Brigitte.
Brigitte
Thank
Miller.
you,
Brigitte Möller.
Danish person.
Welcome to member.
Thank you. Welcome to member.
Ryan Enos, welcome to member.
Welcome to member.
And then we've got some large members.
Oh.
Mementos.
Mementos. It's a sub of mine.
Oh, really?
Asdiga.
Large member.
Thank you,
Both
member.
large members.
Ricochet, Ekutata, Christian, and Technopat 3. Welcome to member.
Welcome to member.
Welcome to member.
Welcome to member. Now, we said that we had some Q&A stuff. We have we've got Andrew Curry.
Andrew.
Welcome
to member, Andrew
Alex
Curry.
W. Welcome to member as well.
Welcome
Is
to
that
member.
all of them, Kurt?
I think, didn't we get these?
Davey, we
right?
did.
Yeah,
I
we're
think we
yeah.
did Nick Hook as well. But, you know.
Yeah.
But either way, Nick Hook, welcome to member just in
Hey,
case.
welcome again. Welcome
Welcome
again.
to
Why
member.
not?
Welcome
Why
back.
not?
Welcome back.
Welcome again.
And we
Good
will
to see
have the Q&A episode and going through some of your hot takes and shit like that. We're going to try and do one of those a month, and we will have that up for you at some point during July. We've also got another fucking awesome episode that we're recording tomorrow, where we're replacing Avast with someone even bigger and chattier. And no, I'm not talking about the guy from Love Island.
Jeremy?
No, it's not Jeremy. It's not Jeremy. If you could believe it, it's an even better guest than Jeremy.
Whoa.
But we'll just tease your balls.
We'll
a
have
little
to
bit
figure
and
out when to release that because we got
Yeah,
even more content on top of that we're recording this week as well.
we do.
Whoa.
Yeah, we've got even more content. We've got all the content in the world, and plus we now have another spicy little addition. We have a PO box which you can send shit to, and it will come in
idea.
contact with us and the desk. So
Not
please,
us, not me. It'll
no
go there.
anthrax packages, and instead, if you could just send nice things, that would be really helpful. No double-ended dildos and shit like that. Just
Send
pleasant
food and
things.
Sideshow will eat it on the show.
No, that's a very bad idea, actually, I think.
That was a joke.
Ideally
That was a joke.
food that has to be refrigerated as well. So, you know, just something like that.
If you could send raw
Don't
eggs
do that.
and, stuff like that. Yeah,
We
just
will
a fish.
throw it out. If you send food or drink, we'll throw it out. Don't do it.
Yeah, but we do have a PO box. So if you have anything cool that you want to show us, or if you just want to send us dumb shit, I don't know what you guys want to do with a PO box, but people have been asking us, so we got one. So yeah, if you have like little pieces of that stuff or whatever, I don't give a fuck. If you're an artist and you want us to shout you out, but you have some like piece of art that you think would go well on the set, rather than us using the same posters over and over again, fuck knows. If you have any ideas, send those as well. Lord knows I'm
send us
outdone.
written ideas, please.
Yeah, written ideas. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, if you have any nice comments that you want to send by letter.
God, I'd love
us
that,
know.
actually. Just reading out. It's like the meme that's like, my dearest Jennifer, the winter has been cruel and harsh. We may not make it through the day. Like that kind of letter. I would love that. Just a handwritten, flowery, cursive letter. Other than that, though, that does it for episode 95. We'll see you with another episode of our interview series is going to be up. And then we have the special episode that I was tickling your balls about. And then we'll be back for episode 96 coming up. And we are very close to episode 100 as well. And we've got something big planned for that, I think.
And I screwed up the recording before. That's why they're referring to the recording being messed up. Sideshow actually did a very good segue at the beginning of the show. And I think what we should do as a recurring comment you guys could do in the chat or in the comments is to rate how good you think Sideshow's segues are to T-Mobile each week.
I mean, the problem is that my segue this week was awful. I gave it to Avast because I couldn't remember the segue that I'd used. It was something about trust, but I can't remember what it was. Does anyone remember what the segue was?
I remember what it was. Matt said something, and then you just slid right into his DMs and executed it perfectly while he finished his sentence.
It sounds like a lie, though. The people at home will never believe it, that it was that smooth. After they've all just been craving Bren to come back with his wacky anecdotes. You know, they frequently will rate mine very lowly. But, all right, you can rate my segues every week. And I'll try to improve them, I suppose. We'll see you next time for episode 96. Bye.
Goodbye.